Tonight on Countdown to Green, we recap all the action from the Brickyard. We take a look ahead to tonight's race at the Tricky Triangle. And we take a look at how you're racing at home. All that and more tonight on Countdown to Green.
Hello everyone and welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. This is Countdown to Green and I'm your host Camille Salazar. Joining me along with our co-hosts, we have Alan Cabana and Blake McCandless. How are you two doing?
Oh, doing so great. Happy to be here. The last race before the playoffs, and we're going to a track, Blake, like Pocono that can deliver on the drama. Whether it be strategy, whether it be hard racing, we've seen awesome finishes here before. This is the type of track that can deliver.
I was just about to say, think about Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago. We saw an incredible race there that came down to the wire. And if you look at this series history, Pocono just has a knack for it. I don't know why, for delivering some of the most compelling finishes that we have seen. All that and more on top of the fact that it's the last race these drivers have to try and get in the playoffs. And there's so much happening around the bubble. This is going to be one, if you're an eNASCAR fan, you cannot miss this one tonight.
You both got it. The excitement is high because it's make or break for a lot of drivers tonight. But before we get into that, we got to kind of cool our excitement to take a look back at what happened at the Brickyard. Blake, take us through it.
I was just about to say, with Pocono on the horizon, we kind of get a good barometer of how this race will play out. If we take a look back 2 weeks ago, the return of the Brickyard in the NASCAR Cup Series. We saw the same thing in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series as well. After a number of years off, and Alan, as we saw throughout this race, it was somewhat procedural at the beginning, but then as the laps started to wind down, we started to see some of that desperation kick in.
And that's what gives me hope for tonight because, yeah, Indy is the type of track position, so important. It's hard to pass. Yet, what did we see, Blake? We saw a lot of aggression. Here was an incident coming out of the pits that caused a lot of drama on social media and during the race. But we saw so many aggressive moves during this race because track position is so tough to get. Here's an incident here. We saw 3 and 4 wide, and then waiting to see, is this the wide Tinsley? You know, we had contenders 4 wide here coming. Those corners aren't that big, Blake.
No, they are not, and this wreck had a substantial impact on the playoff picture and how things look for tonight. You see Wyatt Tinsley, who looked to be pretty solid in the top 20 in points. Remember, he's your Daytona winner, but he gets significantly hurt by being involved in that incident late in the going. We continue to see 3 wide battling continue until at the very end on old tires, Daniel Falkingham, the 2-tire strategy works and goes from having to battle to be in the top 20 in points to getting those 40 and to winning his way into the postseason.
What a well-timed victory for Mr. Falkingham, totally changing up the points, and that is terrible news, Blake. If you are champions Casey Kirwan, former champions Casey Kirwan, and guys like Nick Ottinger, the last thing you wanted to see was a driver who hadn't won, like Daniel Falkingham, suddenly move his way up the point standings by getting a victory. This puts them, guys like Casey Kirwan, guys like Nick Ottinger, on the precipice of not making the playoffs whatsoever. And these aren't drivers, Blake, that are having bad seasons. These are just drivers that have not won yet this season. It just goes to show how competitive this series is and how important and interesting this playoff system is. Yes, you can be having a good season, but without a victory, nothing is guaranteed. And because of Daniel Falkingham's win, Blake, Casey Kirwan, Nick Ottinger, they are really in a tough position when we go racing tonight.
Well, and speaking of getting that victory, I was looking at the series standings, and one thing that really jumped out to me is the fact that with this win, we have both Joe Gibbs Racing drivers that are in the playoffs and are locked in the playoffs even as of tonight. So Daniel Falkingham, Bobby Zielinski, you can see them working together there at Talladega. I think there's no better team that is more of a favorite to win the Drivers' Championship this year than Joe Gibbs Racing. Think about Bobby Zielinski, who has been a regular fixture finisher in the championship 4 in the last number of years. Then you have Daniel Falkingham, who was starting to catch fire right at the important time of the year, right at the time of the year that you want to do so. So I think if you're one of these interstate batteries, Camrys, again, they're tough to decipher when we're up in the booth, which one is which, but easy to say that I think both of them will be at the front and have a real shot at the championship. And it moves us forward into this right there. You can see what we were just talking about, the two green Interstate Batteries machines of Bobby Zielinski, Daniel Falkingham. They don't have to worry about points. Their win gets them in, but this is how the playoffs would look if we started tonight. 8 different winners so far with their wins counting. Then you have Parker White, Nick Ottinger, the first 2 cars that do have some of their destiny still in front of them. They can make it on points if we don't get a new winner, and if Malik Ray doesn't make the top 20 points. You can see right there on the bottom of your screen, Ray and Keegan Leahy both have wins but are outside the top 20. Keegan Leahy does not have the amount of points to make up, but Malik Ray awfully close to where he could work into the mix as well, and we could see 10 different winners make the postseason. Also want to touch on the Segment 3 driver standings. Right now, it's pretty much all Steven Wilson, and it has been for the majority of Segment 3. I would say the additional playoff points that he could get by winning yet another segment, and the $3,000 is well within his grasp, but can't ride out Graham Bolin, who would need a win to qualify for the playoffs. Garrett Lowe has a shot, and so does Michael Cozy Jr. But again, Steven Wilson looks well on his way, Alan, to getting those points.
And we can't forget about the team standings either. William Byron Esports on top. Just goes to show you again how good of a year Nick Ottinger is having by him and his teammates still being up there, but not qualified for the playoffs quite yet. But Willie B Esports up there in position 1. M80 moved up 1 with Steven Wilson nearly getting that win in Indy. And then you go all the way down to Spire. They moved up 1 in 6. Remember, you can get 78 point swing in just one race. So that tells you the top 7 teams separated by the total of one race. There's trophy, there's money on the line, a lot of pride obviously too with the team standing, so still so much to race for.
Yes, definitely a lot of pride with the team standings there. Speaking of a team here at NASCAR, you know, we work as a team together, and sometimes we also work together for a good cause, and that happened recently with the 4th annual race, MS race, that raised over $43,000, Blake?
$43,000. Again, this was something that took place a couple of weeks ago. You can rewatch the event on our YouTube channels, but so many of the big personalities that have been involved in sim racing for such a long time were a part of this event. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Chad Knaus, Tony Kanaan, so many faces that we have seen over the years on iRacing were a part of this event. It's going on for its 4th year, $43,000, one of the highest totals that has been raised over the course of the events that iRacing has been putting on with the MS Society over the last couple of years. And Alan, it was just a really fun time. We saw the GT3 cars. We brought out the street stocks as well. It provided its own show. You can see some of them drifting around here. A very unique car and track combination that was a whole lot of fun for all involved.
A lot of familiar faces, and I saw iRacing President Steve Myers there. You got to let him win, right, Blake? I mean, you got to let the Prez win.
You think so?
Do you think that's the strategy there? He just shows up and everyone's like, ooh, okay, back up.
Let the boss win, man.
Well, you know what? Let's take a look back at past series history in a segment we like to call From the Vault, where iRacing staff writer Justin Melillo takes us through moments that stand out. And this moment in particular is a little bit more recent history coming from Pocono last year.
We've seen some awesome moments over the last 15 seasons. 2023's eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race at Pocono delivered one of the wildest finishes of all time. After a thrilling photo finish the year prior, 2023 ramped up the intensity as the final race before the playoffs. With 2 of the playoff spots available, almost half of the field had a chance to sneak in. Nick Ottinger and Graham Bolin held those 2 spots on points entering the night, with Malik Ray, the first driver, out on points, and Ottinger's teammate Matt Busa tied for 13th. The William Byron Esports duo, with Busa leading 34 laps, seemed unstoppable. Pit strategy and tenacity would bring Malik Ray up to the front, but there was one other driver that snuck into the conversation, 2311's Michael Guest. Entering Pocono, Guest was 16th in points, so his only shot to make the playoffs would be with a win. It would all lead to a showdown in eNASCAR overtime, with Ottinger, Busa, Ray, and Guest all fighting for the win at the tricky triangle. With one turn to go, Busa tried a racing Hail Mary, slamming into his teammate deep into the corner. This allowed Guest to get the run on the outside and race to his first career eNASCAR win. Guest would take the 9th spot on the playoff bracket, with Ottinger taking the final spot on points. And that's a look back at one of the wildest finishes in eNASCAR history.
And again, Michael Guest able to get the job done a year ago. We saw Casey Kirwan, Zach Novak. There's just something about Pocono these last couple of years that produces some of the most exciting finishes that we've seen in this series history.
And we're going to get it again tonight, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it, fingers crossed. But before we do that, to get us a little bit in the mood of excitement, I think it's a good time to check in with everyone's rigs at home in one of my favorite segments. This is called Show Us Your Rigs. This is where we get to see all your rigs at home that you send through all of our socials. Our first one is coming from Benjamin. It's pretty cool.
Thank you, Benjamin, for sending us this rig on X. Pretty comfy desk setup, I would say. Also got the PS5 next to the desk, ready to perhaps hop on some Exocross, the World of Outlaws game, when you're not busy on the PC, but very simple. I like this one.
Yeah, a little bit of cable management maybe needed. Alan, what are you thinking of this one from Jonathan?
I just love the seat there. I mean, very striking. Got that huge monitor, just one, but it's that big monitor. And then you see the canned air there. You got to keep everything clean. Remember they talked about, you talk about cable management. You want to keep everything clean with the canned air on the shelf there. And look, you got the keyboard. Everything's set up well. I love the wheel too. It's really nice.
You know what? This one is a nice, simple setup from Kyle. You just got the necessities, right, Blake?
Exactly. This is just a studio apartment setup here from Kyle. You got the sim racing rig on the left, if you want to call it that. May not be the most comfortable chair, but heck, in college, you make it work. The laptop, the very basic Logitech wheel, sometimes that's all you need, Anybody can hop behind the wheel and drive iRacing. So I'm a big fan of this setup. Brings back a lot of memories.
It gets the job done, Blake, and that's all that matters. Giovanni is here setting the mood with this lighting.
Yeah, beautiful. See, another one just on the desktop. That's all you need if you want to get out here and race with some of the world's best. But you got the nice setup, the beautiful lights. He's even got the Lego F1 car up there. If you look above the desk, that probably took a while for him to put up there. But very clean, beautiful. I love the setup here. Very simple, very fast.
All right, let's go to our next one from Joel. Joel here has a little corner set up, Blake.
Yeah, this one's really nice. I love the aesthetics of this one, but you have plenty of space for pretty much everything you would need. You got kind of a wide monitor going on here. Even some of the decor, you got the BMW poster that's right there on the right side. So I'm a big fan of this one too. So some very, very nice rigs that we've been able to look at here for this one.
And we hope to see some more nice rigs as well. Be sure to send us your rigs using the hashtag eNASCAR tagging eNASCARGG as well as iRacing, because we like to see them here on the show. And you know what else we like to see? We like to catch up with some guest familiar faces. And we actually recently was able to catch up with Nick Rend, who is the VP of Interactive and Emerging Platforms for NASCAR, and talk about the partnership between NASCAR and iRacing. This is what he had to say.
For me, the most phenomenal output of our combined initiatives with iRacing, specifically the Coke Series, is not only to see the community engagement that we've built together with iRacing, but to see race car drivers born from this shared initiative that we're executing consistently. We have a great product, that the product is proven to convey to real world results on the racetrack. And furthermore, from a business standpoint, it's attracting world-class sponsors, Coca-Cola, Logitech, Sunoco, the list goes on and on. We have full fields of cars. In the 15th season, we're giving away record amounts of money, and we have a college series that's absolutely booming. when I was a part of the team that started this back in 2010, could never have imagined. And the team that's working on that business right now, it's far exceeding our expectations. We could not be more excited about the conclusion of the 15th season and for what's coming in year 16.
And he said it perfectly. What's next? Last time I talked with Nick is right after the Chicago event we did. Remember, we were live in Chicago. Last year, few years, we've been live from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Where can this go? It's so cool to have NASCAR involved, iRacing, all the sides working together to really push this series forward. What's next? Again, we've had so many of these live events. I'm excited when I hear him say he's looking toward the future because we've seen this grow so much.
I know, it's great to even see the community be highlighted through this series, and can't wait to see what next year brings. But for now, we gotta get into Pocono because that's where all the excitement leads. So Blake, what should we expect from the track?
Well, this is a unique racetrack. Again, it was on the iRacing service, kind of under weekly competition a couple of weeks ago, but we revisited it for the final race in the regular season. 3 distinct, interesting, and completely unique turns. In turn 1, 14 degrees of banking, but as long and sweeping. Then you have turn 2, which is modeled after the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and turn 3, which is modeled after the Milwaukee Mile. Especially with these next-gen cars, it's tough to get a handle and have your car driving great in all 3, but let's see if Jonathan Delaney can do just that.
What's up, guys? Jonathan Delaney here, driver of the number 3 Coca-Cola Chevrolet for Team Dillon Esports. Today, I'm going to be taking you guys around a lap at Pocono Raceway. Heading down to turn 1 here, I'm going to say we're running from the bottom all the way up to the top by the wall. I'm just going to be searching for grip, trying to find the groove and lane that works best for their car. Everyone's also going to try and get the best straightaway speed as they can down the backstretch, or otherwise known as Long Pond straightaway here. Heading down into turn 2, probably the hardest turn on the racetrack. It's a very tight turn at a very high speed, especially on cold tires. It's going to be very tight, so being able to maintain your car while in traffic is be very, very, very key. Heading down to turn 3 here, also another very wide turn. Everyone's going to be running anywhere from the bottom all the way up to the top by the wall. Everyone's just going to be looking to try and get the most straightaway speed they can going down the straightaways, trying to maintain the draft and make passes on people. But research is going to be, people are going to be looking to be aggressive, and just being able to keep your position in line and maintain the draft is going to be very, very crucial if you're looking to get a good finish position. But there's a few laps around Pocono Raceway.
And how, for some drivers, and how they manage that track means everything tonight, because this is playoffs. We're getting into playoff territory. We've been talking about it all night long. And to give you more of an understanding of the playoff scenarios, well, guess what? Justin Melillo is back.
The eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoff field will be decided at Pocono. For a majority of the field, there's only one chance left for them to take their shot at the 2024 title. 7 drivers are already packed and ready to go, including last year's champion, Steven Wilson. There's also the road course king, Bobby Zalenski, our most recent winner, Daniel Falkingham, 2 Championship 4 competitors from last season, Tucker Minter, Garrett Lowe, 2 drivers that broke their long winless streaks to be here, Dylan Duvall and Vicente Salas. That leaves just 3 seats open on the playoff train. With there being 10 winners this season, that means 3 drivers do have their tickets, but if you fall below the top 20 line in points, that ticket is voided. Sadly for Keegan Leahy, his chance to hop aboard is already over. Daytona winner Wyatt Tinsley has been teetering on the edge all season. After another tumultuous day at Indy, he's now on the cut line. Tied for 20th spot, but in the playoffs with his victory in February. Right on the other side of that line is Atlanta winner Malik Gray, just 2 points behind Tinsley. A good day from either could help them make it in, but a bad day will end their title hopes. For the 13 drivers inside the top 20 without a win, the mission is simple. Win and you're locked in. A checkered flag will ensure that they will be racing for a championship in the playoffs. For those from 21st to 27th without a win, well, they're gonna need it. And they need to make up some points as well. If you're Michael Guest, who's tied with Wyatt Tinsley in 20th, that should be pretty easy. But if you're Matt Busa, who's the last man in with a slim chance to sneak in, you're going to need a miracle. So, what if it's a repeat win for another driver? Or what if Malik and Wyatt don't make it into the top 20? Then it might come down to points for those final 3 spots. Parker White holds the best spot entering Pocono. He's mathematically into the playoffs on points. He's 31 points ahead of Nick Ottinger, so with a 32nd place finish or better, and no new winners, he'll be in. Ottinger is 17 points ahead of Casey Kirwan for what would be the final spot, and Kirwan is 18 points ahead of Caden Honeycutt, who sits ready to steal the spot from the 2022 champion if the opportunity arises. If Malik and Wyatt both finish inside the top 20 in points, those precious spots remaining will evaporate, and 3 spots will turn into 1. All these eligible drivers better hope they take the checkered flag, or at least nab enough points if none of them win. But if there's one thing that we've learned from the last couple of Pocono races, sometimes you gotta throw out the math and expect the unexpected.
Kirwan wins it in the most outstanding fashion you will ever see. But it's too much to handle, and Michael Guest will win at Pocono. So much can happen. Looking forward to the playoffs tonight. We'll kind of show you a little bit of what that looks like, just to kind of recap everything that Justin Malillo did a brilliant job laying out for everybody. This is the first one that we'll show you. This is currently, as things stand, around the top 20 cut line. You can see Tinsley just ahead. It's a tie for 20th right now. Malik Ray also has a win, but they're pretty well behind Keystern to Merchant, so likely out of Tinsley and Ray, it's one of those that get in. And of course, Luza, Olot, and Boson means they have a shot if they were able to get a win tonight. These drivers could also point their way in. We talked about it. Parker White, Nick Ottinger sitting in a pretty good spot. As long as there's not any new winners or Malik and Wyatt don't make the top 20, they should be good to go. But also Casey Kirwan. And although Caden Honeycutt is technically eligible to make it in on points, pretty much going to take a miracle for that to happen for him to catch those. So he's pretty much in must-win scenarios, as well as all of these drivers. This is everybody 10th through down to the top 20. They need a win. That's their only focus tonight. They can stay in the top 20 and avoid relegation after this, but as far as making the postseason and trying to win a championship, a win is the only way that they are going to get it done tonight. And these are the drivers that, well, they could use a win tonight, but it may not necessarily be enough. We talked about Luza, Olot and Boson, and Garrett Baines, but you could also throw Briar LaPrade and Matt Busa in that as well. At 40 points for them, still may not be enough for them to get in the top 20 tonight to lock themselves into the playoffs.
Well, thanks a lot, Blake, for that, and also Justin for running that down, because now that we know the playoff scenarios, Alan, we got to know how these trends play into that.
You gotta know the trends, because second place will not be good enough, as we just heard. This is the 12th eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race at Pocono. It's the second time it's served as the regular season finale. Pocono is the 6th track to actually host the regular season finale. We've been to Michigan, we've been to Texas, Bristol, Talladega, and Darlington, so an array of different races, but tonight it's Pocono that will set the playoff field. Pocono was the first win of the year for 82% of winners. Now think about that. The first win of the year, not their first win ever, but the first win of a driver's year, 82% of the time, despite being the 8th race or later in a majority of seasons. How do you want to think about that? we could get a new winner tonight. That's what that stat tells me, is that we could get the drama and get that new winner. 2 Pocono race winners went on to win the championship. Michael Conti in 2014 and Casey Kirwan in 2022, a driver who may have to win again tonight just to make the playoffs. So much going on tonight. 2 Pocono race winners have won from the pole. Long time ago, though, 2014 and 2017. Regular season finale winners, get this, have never won from the pole. That is a good stat to dig up there. So, I don't know. We'll see who's on the pole and see if you get that win tonight. Buck the trend there. Pocono, such an interesting track. Again, second place for so many drivers tonight will not be good enough, Camille and Blake, and that's what I just love about the system. Second place and not good enough. You better win.
Oh, the tension's very high. I could definitely feel it for the drivers, but also for us, because we do a little thing here called picks. We like to pick a driver that we think is going to win the race. So let's get into it for Pocono. First, let's remind everyone of our points. Take your moment, Alan.
Look at that. That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points.
Well, you know what they say, Alan. Second, the best. And Blake's just happy to be here.
Hey, Blake, how are you?
Hey, Blake. You know what,
Well,
Blake?
I know he's going to be happy at the end of the night. I'll go ahead and throw my pick out there. We talked about Pocono last year. This driver broke through. I say that he breaks through again. He's back against the wall, second year in a row. I think it's going to be good enough. Michael Guest is going to win his way into the postseason. That's my prediction tonight.
All right, not bad. You're going with the drama. I'm going with the complete lack of drama because we've seen what this driver has done, winning championships, winning races, nearly winning Indy, which we can compare. Steven Wilson, come on. He nearly won the Brickyard. He can do it again tonight and maintain my lead. Smarter, not harder. That's strategy, Blake.
He's yawning. Blake's yawning over there. We may lose him. Well, you know what? I'll shake things up a little bit. Just a little. I'm going to go with Mr. Nick Ottinger. You know, I'm taking in consideration how last year's race finished, and, you know, he did pretty well throughout the race. So we'll have to see how this goes. But for now, Blake, you have pole sitter?
We do. It is Donovan Strauss. We talked about drivers that need a win to get in. Donovan Strauss would be one of those, so he'll be leading the field to green tonight in his Williams Esports Chevrolet.
All right, well, as we get into playoff territory, what are your final thoughts heading in, Blake?
Winning, you're in. Simple as that. There's nothing else to be said.
Yeah, but it just won't be easy. We saw it at the Brickyard. We see it at tracks like Pocono, whether it's strategy, whether it's fuel, whether it's pitting, whether it's just good old aggression at a track that really makes you force your way in there for track position. We're going to see some of that tonight. First place, nothing else matters. Go for it.
All right, well, you heard it here. Go for it. And we're going to say go take a quick break, because right after this break, we're going to be back with Pocono. We got Blake, we got Evan, and Mr. Ryan Vargas joining as well. Thank you for all this here at Countdown to Green. Enjoy the race.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, making your guide to win, your drive to win. He's a winner in this. And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
countdown is over. Tonight, we answered the only question that matters.
Pretty good. Freaking lose that race. Your spotter definitely need to fire them.
Let's go! Check. Come on, man! Save fuel.
Nice job.
Just breathe. Who is in?
The road to $500,000 goes from 40 hopefuls to 10 as we end the regular season and set the field of playoff drivers. From iRacing's virtual Pocono Raceway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the regular season finale of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And as always, happy that you're spending your Tuesday evening with us, where after tonight's race we'll know who's in and who's out. Of course, as always, happy to be alongside with you for the call. My name is Evan Pasoko, joined in the booth tonight by Mr. Blake McCandless and Ryan Vargas back with us once more. And Blake, will go to you. It's all teed up, an exciting finish a couple of weeks ago at Indianapolis, a racetrack at Pocono that seemingly always gives us the dramatics. The last 2 years have set the stage tonight with high expectations and really a big step in this championship battle, as 30 drivers tonight know that they will not be walking away as the title contender.
The finishes have been incredible, and the goal is simple tonight, that you have to win to get into the postseason. But especially here at Pocono, Ryan, there's so many different ways to do that. Strategy, track position, all of those things come into factor. And even if you don't have it at the beginning of the race, there's so many options that you have to try and make that happen.
No, absolutely. It's crazy how this crazy season comes down to a crazy race. Pocono has put on two bangers two years in a row, and it all comes down to this. There's so many scenarios, so many clinching opportunities for these drivers. It's hard to keep up, honestly.
I'm with Justin Malolo. I've gone over the graphs and the numbers and the scenarios, and you kind of rip it up and throw it in the air because who knows what's going to happen. We could have a situation where there are 3 points paying positions into the playoffs. We could equally have a position, Blake, where there are none, depending on where the race winners fall and if we see another first-time winner here tonight. So it is extremely difficult for those drivers to do the math, the points it in. So to your point, winning is what solves everything.
Winning solves it all, and again, it creates so much tension. We see the aggression in this series. It is already very high, but with everything on the line, can't only imagine it's going to be even higher tonight.
Cars are rolling off the grid. Let's go trackside and take a look at the Coca-Cola starting grid for the 14th time this season. And it is Williams Esports' Donovan Strauss on pole position, looking for a race win to get to the playoffs, joined on the front row by the Spire Motorsports 77 of Casey Kirwan. Row number 2, the Canon Esports 66 of Colin Kieser, and the Oxygen Esports number 5 of Zach Novak. Then it is the man on the bubble and points, William Byron Esports' Nick Ottinger in the 25 car. He's joined by Travis Pastrana's Nitro Circus Sim Racing Team's 41 of Dylan Duvall.
It'll be Steven Wilson, the regular season champion, who will start in 7th tonight. He's just got playoff points on his mind tonight, with Seth the Merchant needing a win for FGR Excel, who will roll off in the 8th position. Going 9th, Ryan Luza needs a win to get in. It would help him a lot, as well as Cody Byus, who will start 10th for the Pittsburgh Knights. Brian LaPrade for Junior Motorsports will start from 11th next to his teammate, who could point his way in potentially tonight in Caden Honeycutt.
Row number 7, going to see a couple of race winners, but in very different scenarios. It's the Joe Gibbs race at 18 of Bobby Zelensky, and the Spire Motorsports 7 of Malik Ray. Malik needing points tonight for that race win to put him through into the round of 10. Row number 8, we'll see the Oxygen Esports 22 of Femi Olanton-Bosin and the Latard Esports 40 of Dylan Alt. And back on row 9, the William Byron Esports 97 of Tucker Minter and BS Competitions Jordy Lopez.
Going from 19th tonight, For Nitro Circus will be Matthew Zwack. RFK's Colin Bowden will start tonight from the 20th position. Parker White, best in points entering the night. His Williams Esports teammate starts 20 spots better than him, with Garrett Lowe for BS Plus Competition rolling off from 22nd. 2311's Michael Guest will start in the 23rd spot in the number 45, and Matt Busa for KHI will start a position in front of his teammate in the 24th spot.
Kevin Harvick Inc. in the 29 of Jimmy Mullis going to start inside of row 13 next to the FTR XL eRacing's number 12 of Garrett Maines. And it was way back in Daytona in February that Wyatt Tinsley opened the year with a win, but his Pioneers number 20 car needs points to be in the top 20. He's next to the Front Row Motorsports 34 of Derek Bordeaux. And back on to row 15, the Joe Gibbs Racing 54 of Daniel Falkingham is next to the Pittsburgh Knights number 55 of Ryan Doucette.
Starting 31st tonight, the four-time series champ Ray Alfala for E-Racer will start 31st. 32nd, Michael Cozy Jr. for Front Row Motorsports. He needs to win to get in tonight in 32nd. 33rd will be Tyler Gary just behind his teammate, with Jonathan Delaney for Team Dillon in 34th. Vicente Salas, he's well on his way to a postseason bid from the 35th spot for Tony Kanani Sports. Keegan Leahy will start tonight in 36th. In the other 2311 entry that you have Taylor Hurst 37th for Team Dillon, followed by Graham Boland second in the segment 3 standings for the Kansas City Pioneers in 38th. 39th, Kwame Scott for Letard Esports, and Timmy Holmes for RFK will round out your top 40, all 40 making the starting grid for tonight's race. But leading the field to the green flag, he wins another pole in his eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series career. For Williams Esports, it's a big night for both of their drivers. One of them is Donovan Strauss. And Donovan, big part of your night's already behind you. You got track position. How do you manage it from here and try to stay up here at the end of this one?
Yeah, I got a lot of hungry people behind me trying to get a playoff spot, and I'm one of them. So it's gonna be tough here. A lot of draft involved tonight. It's gonna be a big pack race, so I just gotta, manage my tires out front here. I feel like I deserve to be one of these guys in the playoffs, and tonight we got our shot. So leading the field here, I'm thankful for the track position I have, because I know I'm gonna need it, and I'm just gonna try and play it cool, play it smart, and see what we got here. We got 60 big ones to do it.
All right, I know you guys were fast at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, similar track here tonight. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Blake.
Donovan Strauss on his second pole position of the season, looking to win his way in to these playoffs. Lights out on the pace car, looking for the green the next time by. Blake, I'll go back to you and take a look at our McConey Setup Shop race analysis.
And this is where this entire race is going to be decided. 60 laps, 150 miles. You're going to have to come down and stop at least one time. You could probably go a little bit past the halfway point to around lap 35 or so. 3 sets of Goodyear Eagles that are available. Not sure if you're going to be using all of them when track position is the name of the game, but this is a really interesting track, Ryan, where you can pit. You're not necessarily going to lose a lap. So like we saw at Indy, we could see a lot of differing strategy even early in this race as soon as drivers can make it.
Yeah, and we saw the value of track position at Indianapolis, right? When Daniel Falkingham, he set himself right at the front as those pit stops cycled out. So being able to maximize your time on the pit road and make sure that you're able to leapfrog those cars around you is going to be key here today.
It's going to be a fun one, just like it has for the first 13 races of this season. And as always, happy that you're spending your Tuesday evening with us on the iRacing Esports Network. Getting ready to go in the McConey Setup Shop 150. Pace car will bow out of the way. Field in the hands of a hungry 51 machine of Donovan Strauss for the last time in the regular season. Let's go racing at Pocono. Already 5 wide, a couple of rows back. Battle for the race lead on. Top side, Kirwan. Inside, Strauss, and a Hornet's Nest behind them.
One guy that stuck out early in the moves that he was make, that number 8 car that's on the top of your screen, went high immediately off the jump. That seemed to be a good place to go. He's been able to use that draft as a number of drivers still on the bottom, 3 and 4 wide throughout the field. Strauss in the best seat in the house right now gets to watch it all from behind as Kirwan looks on, but everybody trying to shuffle out and find their place in line. Again, this is a track where draft is going to be very important, so you want to be on the top side on these long straightaways, and everybody fighting to get there right now. Oh, trouble. That's Colin Bowden, and a number of cars going to be involved in this one. Matthew Zwack, Derek Bordeaux, Graham Bolin spins, Malik Ray, a championship competitor, if he could get into the top 20, is involved as well, as they're not quite able to get back to the stripe.
Consequential and big accident coming to the end of lap number 1, just as we had seen Donovan Strauss clear for the race lead, and it was 4 wide gone wrong off of turn number 3. Very flat corner, a lot of slipping and sliding, but again, you need to carry the speed off for a really long run down to turn number 1, and they just ran out of room. We'll wait for a second look, but Ryan, I'm not surprised given how everybody off of those front 2 rows were racing there.
No, they were door slamming all the way through the tunnel turn, and going into turn number 3 there, you saw them. They were still 4 or 5 wide, trying to shuffle into position there. So just a crazy, crazy moment right there. But as you see on the bottom right corner of your screen, you want to sign up and get a part of the iRacing service? Well, here's your chance. Scan the QR code today and get yourself signed up and join the likes of these guys one day. Everyone started off as a rookie once as well.
I think we're going to get 2 looks at this one, Blake. The drivers are doing a bit of a post-mortem over the driver radio now, hypothesizing that the car on the bottom, the 97 of Tucker Minter, may not have known they were still 4 wide off the corner.
Well, and it is tough to know. And, well, I don't know. Like, you know, Tucker Minter's in a tight spot there. Garrett Maines, who's on the top side 3 wide there. I think he anticipated that Bowden was going to be on his outside, exiting the corner 4 wide. He had space out there, but if that 17 was out there, he was in a good spot. He tags the right rear of Femi Olatan-Bosin, spins him around, and we have the big one at Poconos. You can see kind of behind, this is the Male on board of Garrett Lowe. He's able to smoothly drive his way through this one.
I hesitate to say that Malik Ray is going to be okay because he was involved in this one. His damage does not look as bad compared to others. We'll see him get collected late in this one. Look for Malik trying to go by the white and green 7. He gets tagged. He does get into the inside wall again. There is worse damage, but that's huge because Malik Ray, either being in or out, has a big impact, Ryan, on the points positions available on that playoff grid.
I was going to mention the points right there. Malik Ray had a lot of contact there, but Wyatt Tinsley, he skirts through the center of that incident. I kept my eye on him right there. He may have gotten a little bit of rear bumper tag getting through there, but other than that, he's clean and green. Malik Ray is going to be in full panic here, trying to make sure that he gets that thing repaired, and out to try and capitalize on points is, oh my goodness, it's just chaos everywhere on the front straightaway.
So big storylines to follow early in this one. Malik Ray, along with about a dozen other cars, down pit road for damage repairs. Malik currently scored 30th. That would likely not be enough for him to get the points necessary to be a top 20 car in the standings and for his race win to count towards playoff eligibility. So that's the challenge with Malik Ray. And we're going to be following live points all night long. We're going to be talking about the scenarios. Here's the current picture. Notice no number 7 car because, again, not in a position to be top 20. However, still showing only 2 points paying positions available. That's because Donovan Strauss currently being scored as a winner, while both Malik Ray and Wyatt Tinsley not top 20 cars as they run right now.
Yeah, that's kind of the biggest difference right now is Tinsley and Ray not in the running right now. But again, if you're going to have a problem, I think you mentioned the Ray's damage isn't that bad, and I would agree with that assessment. So you got time to try and make things up here. You also see how much it kind of shakes up the fact that we have Donovan Strauss. He's your race leader right now. He needs a win to get in. So even if he were to bump out and somebody who already has a win at this point could take his spot, would allow another spot on points. But we're somewhat in a weird position here, Evan. Look at all these drivers that are at the front of the field. They're pretty much all almost in the exact same scenario. Strauss, Kirwan, Novak, Keister. So many of the drivers that are up here, a win gets them in. So we're kind of in a great situation to probably have a really fun night with so many drivers who are so desperate right now, already in a great position.
Even Nick Ottinger too, right? I mean, if you have a scenario where both Malik Ray, both Wyatt Tinsley points their way to the top 20, and you have a new race winner like Donovan Strauss is currently leading the race, there are no points paying positions. Ottinger's out, so he may have to consider himself as one of those drivers. Even though there is an opportunity to points his way in, can't rely on that, because again, you could have 0 points paying positions available. You could have as many as 3. That all depends on how this race shakes out. But your first race winners in line are Dylan Duvall and Stephen Wilson back in 7th and 8th, so there is a ton of opportunity on those front couple of rows. Mullis, Zawak, Ray, Gary, Falkenham, Doucette all spent elongated times on pit road, more than a minute for each of those cars for damage repairs. They are trying to hustle to catch up to the back of the field. They're going to do so in time, but they were maximizing damage repair efforts on the pit lane. They're going to be all the way at the rear of this 40-car grid. And now the restart procedure changes. Instead of on the green, it is the 51 of Donovan Strauss in control for the inside of row number 1. Green flag back in the air. Strauss clear for the lead into turn 1, but already 4 wide. Look at the 17 of Colin Bowden. Contact on the outside. Somebody got shuffled up into the fence. It was Luza.
It's a tough situation for Ryan Luza. There's pretty much nowhere he could go. Bowden spent the whole corner trying to save that car on the cold tires, moves up into Luza, and I'm sure Ryan Luza, he'll remember that for sure.
Yeah, Blake, and that's just the product of going 3 wide into turn number 1 there, right? You're going 180, 190 miles per hour in there, and you are hard on the brake, downshifting, trying to shuffle into spot there. So, tough situation there, but you know Ryan Lewis is going to be really fuming after that one.
A little bit of space on the front 4 rows as it's Strauss, Kirwan, Novak, DeMerchant across the stripe. Here's a good look down the front stretch as cars zigzag at a line. They draft up to speeds more than 190 miles an hour into the corner. That's the 66 of Keister on the inside of maybe a 3 wide moment. Duvall to the top side. Wilson was trying to go way up top. Couldn't find a spot. Stays in line. And then outside carries more speed off of turn number 1 down this Long Pond straight from 1 and 2, about just as long as the run on the front straightaway. A lot of speed into the tunnel turn. Wilson clearing Keister.
Now you see everybody just shuffling in the line here, right? Down these long straightaways here. Yeah, we're on a little bit of a short shoot here, right? But that draft, we cannot stress enough, Blake. You hit on this at the beginning of the show. The draft is so important in this race, especially making sure that you're able to lock yourself into a good track position.
Especially look how long this straightaway is, right? And that's what kind of keeps everybody in line for the moment, is the fact that these straightaways are so long, having momentum in the bubble that pushes that car in front of you forward, and the hole that this car punches in the air. There's so much drag in these next-gen cars that if you get on the straightaway, you do not want to be on the bottom. You saw Colin Keister lost a couple of positions. You could see even further back in the pack, Tucker Minter, another Williams Esports car, and Parker White. It's really difficult. As we could see, Wyatt Tinsley, we mentioned the fact that he's right on the cut line. He was 20th coming into the night. He's made up a couple of spots on this restart and trying to be one of those lone rangers that is getting the job done on the bottom. Now, the great part is, look on his outside, everybody stacks up when everybody's running the same lane. So he is able to make up a little bit of ground here to turn 3. And just as we're on board with him, that's how close the points are right now. He gets passed right here by Michael Guest, and he's out. So that is how close this margin is right now between drivers that are in and drivers that are out.
It's essentially a 1-point bubble right now, and as he goes back underneath Michael Guest, the nose goes in front. He would go ahead in those live standings, and I have to wonder, as a driver, Ryan, do you want that information if you're Wyatt Tinsley, or do you not want to know how close it is?
Well, when you go into these races, you know your scenarios going in, right? You know who you're battling, right? I guarantee you, Wyatt Tinsley knows that he is battling that 45 of Michael Guest for that 20th position. They are tied, essentially, coming into this race. If Wyatt passes him, he's in. If he finishes behind him, he's out. So he just knows that. He's just got to play his own race, be methodical, be smart, keep those tires underneath you, make sure that you're able to capitalize when the cards get on the table.
They're likely not close enough to the likes of DeMerchant, 24 points ahead, and Keister, 24 points ahead, unless those cars have trouble. And speaking of which, the 69 car out of control, spinning, and a caution for Ray Alfala, second yellow in the opening 10 laps.
Looked like the 90 of Luzo was also involved in that, or at least got checked up in a pretty heavy way as well.
Funny enough, we'll wait again to take a second look, but that all happened off of turn number 3, the exact same spot that the first caution flag of the night had happened. So the exit at turn number 3 seems to be the trouble spot so far tonight, with 2 early caution flags in this regular season finale at Pocono. But up front, continuing to lead things, it's Donovan Strauss in control in a pivotal round 14.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, make it your guide to win, your drive to win.
He's a winner in this.
And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, Makoni.
We now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at MaconiSetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
From the community in the campgrounds to the action on the track, there's something for everyone at Michigan International Speedway. Here we go. The green flag will be flying all weekend long with 3 races and endless opportunities for a good time. Family-friendly entertainment meets race fans' need for speed from sunup to sundown. End summer with a bang and discover why a NASCAR race in Michigan is anything but slow. Get your tickets today at mispeedway.com.
Live at Pocono, where coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Is it the best Coke ever? Try and decide. By Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. By Sunoco. From fueling your favorite NASCAR teams to filling up at the pump, Sunoco is trusted to help vehicles perform at their peak. Sunoco, performance is what we do. by Exocross. Experience the future of off-road racing with Exocross, available now on the PlayStation Store and Steam, and coming soon to Microsoft. And by Pocono Setup Shop. Our setups, your victories. Well, lights out on the pace car, getting ready to go back green, but let's wind it back and take a look, Blake, at our second incident off of turn 3 tonight.
Going to see 3 wide, a couple of former series champions. Ryan losing the 80. Remember, he kind of got kicked up by Colin Bowden, and Alfala is trying to save it. And eventually with these next-gen cars, sometimes they can just snap on you in the middle of the corner if you barely get out of shape. And if anything, try to get back in the gas to avoid kind of coming back up into traffic, but really nothing that he could do. But what this sets up is a lot of strategy towards the end of this race. I remember talking to a couple of folks before this race about how far they could go on fuel, and you know, this is kind of around their number if they get perhaps the aid of a caution or so to either make it from here, or, you know, talking to a number of Cup Series crew chiefs before the race at Pocono a couple of weeks ago, the one thing that they consistently said to me was we need to try to shorten the length of our last pit stop. So for those drivers that pit here, they're pretty much in the same scenario. They either want to be able to make it to the end, or even if they do have to pit, they can cut out 5 or 6 seconds that some of the cars that stayed out here are going to have to do if we have to pit under green.
Interesting that we've seen half of the drivers in the field make a pit stop already tonight. Top 18 have not. From there on back is where you get some of the mixed bag strategy-wise. One constant, though, has been Donovan Strauss. He had a good jump on the inside of the front row last time. Let's see if he can do it again with 48 laps to go in the regular season. Green flag in the air. Nice hearty jump for the 51 car. He's clear and leaves the fight for second behind him. Kirwan, though, has the push from Divergent on the outside.
Divergent just locked onto that rear bumper of Kirwan heading into the corner. He lifts early there, gives Kirwan the benefit there to get into the corner nice and smooth. And now you see the first 2 lanes. Bowden almost gets up into the fence back there.
Big bobble, that's Wyatt Tinsley, center of it all in the quick trip number 20 Toyota. Look out for one of the drivers who's got a good shot at locking into the playoffs if he can keep that nose clean.
And he's kind of in the worst scenario right here. He's one of those cars that stayed out as they're wrecking further back on the front straightaway. Caution is going to come out again as 2 or 3 cars slam into the inside pit wall. We'll see the yellow once again. Again, this may be the difference of those cars that came down under this last stop. This may be the 1 yellow or so that they needed to perhaps go the distance.
A lot of damage to Michael Guest. He had a hard impact with the inside wall. Vicente Salas involved. And then Timmy Holmes, the other driver, who may in fact get the worst oval of this. But again, we look at trends, and turn number 3 continues to be Calamity Corner, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy, right? The corner is so flat. Everybody's just sliding up the track. That's the only way they can go, right? It's science. You're going that fast, the track is that flat, you're going to go to the wall. And that's where everybody's trying to shuffle right there. And you see the first 10 rows of cars, they single file out. They get all sorted. They want to have a long run, but further back, they get all stacked up in 2 and 3 wide, as we're going to see a replay here.
It was right around 22nd position. Michael Guest was in that spot. Tucker Minter had a bad restart, slid back into the middle, and watched the 97 car, Blake. I don't know if he thought the gap was there or if that car was pushing, but got into the quarter panel of the 45 and it kicked it all off.
That's a tough scenario right there. You can see a lot of damage for Michael Guest. Timothy Holmes involved in this one as well. This is on board. We've seen a number of onboards, I think, throughout this season from Derek Bordeaux, and it typically ends with him missing the accident, and somehow he did right there. He may have gotten just a piece of one of those spinning cars that I believe was one of the Tony Kanaan Esports cars. But man, Derek Bordeaux has had himself a season of missing a lot of close incidents.
You'll see just how barely that 11 gets collected as well. There's the big hit from the 6, who then goes off it into the inside wall. Now we'll go on board with the 27 of Cody Byus.
See all those cars, they slide up to the wall. Everybody's trying to shuffle in a line and just nowhere to go. They just stack up. Michael Guest gets wrecked. And if you're Wyatt Tinsley, that lap, you were sideways in the tunnel turn. You see your competitor, Michael Guest, get wrecked off 3. That might have been a playoff-saving lap right there.
Yeah, those drivers entered tonight tied. Wyatt Tinsley, with Michael Guest involved, has a little bit more pad. Of course, there's still the Luzas, the Olaten Bosens, the Mainses of the world who can maybe shake that up. But it is, for a moment, a small victory for Wyatt Tinsley in terms of being a little bit more comfortable in where he stands in the live points. A couple of drivers looking to pit road, some fake outs. First taker might just be inside of the top 10 or so. Maybe Bobby Zelensky and Wyatt Tinsley, first drivers to come in from the leaders who have yet to be on pit road.
And that's going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out, right? Tinsley, right now, like I said, he saw his biggest competitor, Michael Guest, get wrecked out right there. So now he kind of gets to play a little bit of offense here now. Now he can charge. Now he can try and differentiate his strategy. Blake, I mean, we talked about the fuel number here. 16 laps into a 60-lap race. I mean, what do you feel about that?
I mean, you got to think about half of these laps have been run under fuel, so it's something that has certainly helped these drivers, including one who is sitting second right now, is Matthew, North Carolina's own Casey Kirwan. Big trophy in the background, looking to try and get another chance to fight for one today, which, by the way, speaking of today, happy birthday, Casey.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, so aside from the fact that you're sitting second, I feel like that'd be a pretty good birthday present if you could get one spot better. How's it working for you today?
I mean, good so far. Obviously, qualifying is always my Achilles heel, and I feel like this is the highest I've started up in a long, long time. So we haven't really done much, it feels like. We run about a lap or two and then go back to pacing, so hopefully we can kind of get into somewhat of a rhythm and see where it'll all shake out. But yeah, it's obviously really good to have track position to start, and yeah, obviously there's a lot of different crazy scenarios and stuff that can happen with the playoff situation, but the thing that makes it all that matters if we can win. So hopefully we can keep it up here all night and be there in 45 lap time.
Well, we've had a lot of cautions to start this race, obviously. How does this kind of change your approach if you think we're going to see more, and how you guys maybe approach field strategy here?
Yeah, it's going to make it weird here. I feel like, I don't know if the guy, if you went and topped off this yellow, if you could quite make it. But hopefully, if there is another yellow, if you see another yellow here soon, everyone will probably come and top off, just to be able to go green to the end. So right now, I don't know if it's going to do much. It wouldn't surprise me if someone deep in the field tops off here and saves really hard and can probably stretch it. I don't know if they'd be going too slow to be caught, but we'll see. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully we just get some green flag racing in and have a decent show.
All right, Casey, look, you get back at it. Thanks for talking to us.
It's Casey Kirwan, who's in the complex side of the equation. There's a point scenario, there's a win scenario. These are the drivers who just need to win. There are no ifs and or buts. And of course, Zach Novak and Donovan Strauss, two of the drivers inside of the top 3 in the current running order on that list of drivers who are currently top 20, but need to be able to get the win to leapfrog and get themselves in. Seth Burchett also is the highest running rookie in the field. He's in that same scenario. He's in the number 4 spot. So it is, in fact, 3 of those top 4 positions who are in those win and you're in must-win scenarios. And again, Kirwan, like he said it himself, that would solve all of his problems as well. So a lot to drivers with the same things to fight for, Blake, in those first 2 rows.
Should make it really compelling to see if we can get a couple of green flag laps in here, how these cars will handle. Again, you get these kind of runs put together, Ryan, you kind of think about, well, it's going to be all short runs from here to the end, and then all of a sudden we could have a 30, 40-lap run where saving your tires, all those things are going to matter. So something you definitely have to keep in mind.
No, definitely. You know, you're going through this mindset of start, stop, but then you're just waiting for that one run that goes green for a really long time, and that's the one where you make your money.
Now the restart on deck with Donovan Strauss and Casey Kirwan again, side by side on the front row. It's bow ties into 5 of the top 6 as green flag is back out, and again another good start for the bottom. Novak this time has a bit of a push. Can the 25 car of Ottinger shove him to second? 3 wide to the outside goes Seth the Merchant. DeMerchant tucks back in line, 3 wide behind them with the 8, the 10, and the 41 car. Down on the inside off of the corner, Parker White may be off pace a little bit as they're 3 wide, several rows deep. Can they fit through the tunnel turn?
Lots of contact through there. You see Matt Booth, I think it is, gets the rear bumper of Stephen Wilson there. Big stack-ups all the way through the field.
Watching the midfield as they come off a 3. It looks like they squeeze through and make it happen this time. And now a full speed run down to turn number 1. Donovan Strauss has continued. He's led all 18 laps in this race thus far. One car looking low, about a couple rows back. That looked like the 10 of Wilson.
I'll tell you one guy that has made up spots every single run that we've had, whether they've been 1 or 2, is Caden Honeycutt. He's up 8 positions from the 12th spot. He stayed out on each of these caution flags, but finds himself in the 4th position. So top 4 right now, top 5, all need a win to get into the postseason right now, and they've put themselves in great position, some of them driving up about 10 positions or so to get up to this point. So we'll see how things shake out. And Honeycutt, if his march continues, I mean, he's been very committed to the top side early on and making up a lot of spots. That 8 car is really good on the high side of turn 1 right now.
And both he and Zeth DeMerchant have been picking away at the drivers together. They ride right now in P3 and 4. They started 8th and 12th respectively. There's a look off of the back at the Junior Motorsports indicated Honeycutt as Novak look into the inside. I know we're in the Poconos, but he was camping a tent on the left rear quarter panel of the 8 that time. Couldn't get by. Poor exit off of 1. And look at Nick Ottinger. Big speed for the 25. Wilson going to push him on by. And it'll be a net loss of 2 in that corner for the 5 car.
Blake, I like that you hit on it there, though. Caden Honeycutt is running a really interesting line. You're probably going to see it down here in turn number 3. He sticks about a lane, half a lane higher than everybody, and this time he proves me wrong and goes lower. But he's been doing a really good job of basically keeping the air on that nose, being able to get that nose to cut and get that rotation. That's so important to make sure that you get that run so you get down this really long straightaway. You feel like you can read a book with how long this straightaway is.
Sounds like you say that from experience.
Look, I was always told that you can enter school and graduate by the time you exit turn 3 and enter turn 1.
Wyatt Tinsley back in the live points. You see him there 9th on the playoff standings because he's currently running. He's in 16th spot on the racetrack. That would put him top 20 in the overall standings. That limits those points-paying positions. The 25 of Ottinger, who came into tonight as a playoff driver, right now below that red cut line, would be eliminated. That's going to constantly change all night long. But with Strauss, Kirwan, DeMerchant, Honeycutt up front, and even Nick Ottinger there in P5, there is a whole lot of opportunity in front of a lot of these critical drivers. Strauss has been confident and comfortable thus far. Blake, you guys were talking to Countdown to Green. We've never seen a driver start from pole and win in a regular season finale in series history somehow.
It's tough to think, but even, I mean, Donovan Strauss, think about the fact what a championship run could mean for him. You think back to Homestead Miami Speedway last year. I know Stephen Wilson won the championship. It was Donovan Strauss that started on pole, pretty much led every lap, dominated, and won that race. And that's the exact same venue we're going back for the championship this year. So Strauss, not only is he somebody that if he could just get to Homestead, I think he'll have a lot of confidence in being able to, you know, get his way in through the regular season finale, but then have a real shot to compete for $100,000 when it's all said and done.
He's led all the way thus far, but it is the first time we've had a couple of green flag laps in concession, and here comes Casey Kirwan now, right to the back bumper. Does the 77 make a move quick? Instead, he'll pull to the bumper that time, stay in line. Strauss isn't pulling away, though. Look at the 8 car of Honeycutt, way to the outside line. Goes the 8. Can he build up some speed? And look to the 14 car of DeMerchant. Thought he was going to cross to the bottom, didn't do it yet. Now they all push each other in the run down to turn 2.
so fascinating seeing the runs you get off the corners here. Like I mentioned earlier, Caden Honeycutt finally demonstrated what I was talking about, getting that big run off the corners and getting right to the bumper of Seth the Merchant. Now, the only thing is you don't want to peek out and put yourself in a vulnerable position to get past, because right now Caden Honeycutt is sitting pretty in the 4th position, just biding his time. You want to have that track position when the cars get on the table.
I think this is indicative of a lot of the racing that we saw at Indianapolis a week ago with how big the draft plays in a factor. I think that's why you see a lot of the top 4, top 5. You see these massive runs that build, but yet oftentimes they're not going to take them. It's because if they form up 4 or 5 cars and they're all pushing each other down the straightaway, they're gaining time. Meanwhile, everybody further back in the pack in dirty air, they're side by side, they're slowing each other down, staying linked up and giving yourself a chance, because again, in the last 2 or 3 laps, you can make a move from 4th to perhaps win this race, but right now it's all about making the most time possible, and sometimes that can mean doing exactly what you're doing right now, which is staying in line, working together. So we see the segment 3, or everything that's on the line here with segment 3, that is largely kind of racked up at this point. I mean, Steven Wilson came into the night. You can see the segment 3 points on the left-hand side of your screen for a moment. 29 points was the advantage that Wilson had starting this race, and it's pretty much what it sits right now. 5 playoff points, $3,000. And again, Steven Wilson is going to have quite a bit of bonuses if that holds to take into round 1. As we see Honeycutt make that move to the outside, he's been really good at this part of the corner, and he's able to make that move onto Merchant, and he'll try to hook up with Casey Kirwan to build a run on Donovan Strauss.
And now on the inside, here comes that aforementioned number 10 is Steven Wilson. He went under the 25 of Ottinger. You see them off of the back of Novak. It is the Pocono Setup Shop 150 onboard camera. Looking back at some of the other fights inside of the top 10. Let's ride with him. Up a little bit there to the tail end of the top 10 as up front, new race leader as pit stops happen behind. It is Casey Kirwan to the point for the first time tonight. Caden Honeycutt pushed him down the front stretch, pushed him on through. As you see those cars on pit road, it was Wilson and Olaton Boson from inside of the top 10.
They read my mind. I was just about to talk about the fact that if you're somebody that had stayed out under that course of yellows, everybody who's further on back that pit that hopes to make it to the end, they're going to be stretching it really tight on fuel. And what's the one thing you can do, Ryan, to try and make them push the issue? Pit yourself where you know you can make it, and you can start to apply pressure on those drivers that they need the draft, they need the clutch, they need to save some fuel. And no better way than for all of these drivers who are up front to kind of come down and see if they can try and make those drivers push a little bit harder than they would like.
Yeah, as we see 3 more file off on the pit road here, but you hit it right on the nose there. You want that draft. If you're one of these lead cars, you know, the best thing you could do is put them in a situation where they have to run full throttle. I guarantee some of these cars that need to make it to the end, they're not wide open down these straightaways. I know these straightaways are long, but they're probably running, you know, 7/8 throttle going down that straightaway, maybe 3/4 throttle, just keeping the throttle out of it to try and save just that smidgen of gas.
Not to mention, if the yellow comes out now, they leapfrog everybody.
Here's a second look at the pass for the race lead. Right-hand side of your screen, that bit of a draft and a push, courtesy of the 8 car to get Kirwan in front. And now those 2 cars running 1-2 as we've seen that number 51 of Ashina Donovan Strauss come down pit road for service. Are there any more takers this time? Both of the top two, and it's a drag race to the line. Caden Honeycutt almost wrecked the car trying to pass the 77 on pit entry. Novak in mains as well.
Now, if that benefits Caden Honeycutt there, if there's no issues on this pit stop, that little bit of time gained could mean the difference between a spot or two, and that could mean the difference between winning or not making the playoffs.
And I've always thought Pocono is one of the more difficult tracks to pit under green, Ryan. You could probably attest to this yourself because you've done it. And it's because there's nothing difficult about it. It's because of the fact that there's no visual indicator, that it's a straight line, and you can go really fast. You don't have to go around an access road or anything. But because of that, it's so inviting to speed on pit entry if you don't nail it correctly.
I was going to say, it may be the most simple pit road entry, but it is the easiest to mess up. And right there, we almost saw it with Caden Honeycutt. He did a perfect job getting it just bowed up to try and maximize that pit entry. If he had gone 1% harder, I don't think he would have been making it, at least at pit road speed.
Pit road speed 55 miles an hour as all these cars pit in and will pit out together. All of this has cycled the number 14 of Seth the Merchant to the race lead. Lopez, Cozy, Keister, Busa, the rest of the cars inside of the top five. Colin Keister in fourth has pitted at lap number 7 in this race. But Blake, having been out there for 19 laps, likely not, you think, in that scenario, trying to stretch it to the end and essentially time in with the rest of these guys?
No, I don't think that'd be 50 laps or so. Even with a couple of yellows, that would be a really tough position to be in. So it's kind of one of those deals where I think you're hoping that tire-wise, maybe you're able to gain a set on the rest of the field or so. Just trying to see how things play out. But the one thing that I think is going to hurt these drivers that have stayed out is the fact that draft is such a big factor, and everybody's kind of spread out in the top 10 right now. You don't see everybody kind of forming up, pushing each other, making up time. And aside from the fact that you're losing time on these old tires, everybody that's pitting now, they're going to gain a couple of tenths every single lap. So this is a tough position to be in. You can see as things stand right now, what a Seth the Merchant win would kind of put the rest of the field. But again, it's kind of hard to tell at this point with the fact that we just haven't cycled all the way through yet.
Yeah, because Tinsley's pitted, he's dropped down the running order, therefore he's dropped out of the top 20 in points. That's what opens up that 10th spot to be in a points-paying position for Ottinger as they run. But again, to Merchant and a win-in-your-in scenario, still currently occupying one of those positions. And don't just count out the 14 just because of this being off cycle. Again, Seth had been a top 5 car when this pit strategy kicked off. We'll see where he cycles back out to whenever he decides to come down pit road and get service. He is one of, I think, only about 4 cars on the racetrack still that have yet to come down pit road at any point tonight. I think it's just him, Lopez, and Busa. Everybody else has been in at some point or another. But logging laps up at the front of the field, here's a look back in the race for 21st position with Ray Alfala and company. And what's important in this group back here is that Nick Ottinger has gotten ahead of a lot of big names that he was running around.
It's also important that Wilson and Olot and Boson, they were kind of the first cars that kicked off this cycle, and they're already passed. So they have a couple lap older tires than Ottinger, than Caden Honeycutt, and yet they're already a little bit behind the 8 ball here in terms of where they want to be. But they have good track position in this line, so if they can hold it here for the next couple laps, they probably should be okay. But again, this kind of pack, if you want to call it that, is running laps that are around the 53.7s, 53.8s or so, which honestly is pretty much matching what Seth the Merchant, Jordy Lopez, and all those drivers up front are doing right now. The difference is everybody here, they can make it to the end on fuel. Those drivers up front cannot. So if you're the Merchant, you're Lopez, you're Michael Cozy Jr., probably your ideal scenario here, Ryan, I would think, is that you're hoping this goes green maybe another 10 or 15 laps. Then a caution would have come out to where tires would come into play.
I was going to say, if you're DeMerchant or Lopez or Cozy, you're hoping for a lot of laps here, right? Because you hit it on the head. Getting those laps on your tires, it's going to make that barrier right there between those guys who stayed out and the guys who are currently trying to make their way back through the field. It's a lot closer now. They have that wear on their tires. They're not as fast. You know, 10-lap-old tires are a lot slower than 1-lap-old tires. So it's going to be a really interesting battle here if we do get another yellow. This race could go straight to the finish.
Very fitting you two were talking about how you can expect short runs and all of a sudden it can go green right before this restart, and now we're enthralled in a green flag pit cycle and strategy. You see the damage 45 of Michael Guest on the outside. He continues to drop back and get lapped as his night has fallen apart after being involved in an earlier accident, and everybody else in this group is chasing Nick Ottinger, who rides in the number 19 position on the racetrack, who would be the net leader if this were all to cycle through. And here's a trio: Demergent from the lead, Lopez and Cozy down pit road as well. It'll put Jonathan Delaney to the race lead for the first time tonight.
Be curious to see where that group kind of cycles out once they get back on the track and kind of where they are in relation to this long line of cars. And if they're able to stay attached and be able to make some moves with fresh tires, or if this pack is going to be too far gone. And I think it's going to be the latter. I think this group made up a lot of time. We'll see them exiting pit road here in a moment, and you can see them flying by. So, well, actually, they made some pretty good time here. If they can get absorbed into this pack, they're going to have a lot. Yeah, they're going to have fresher tires. So, actually, this cycled out pretty well if they keep it together.
Big if, because they did their best to wreck them all that time. Up at turn number 1 with a couple of rows getting out of control. You're looking at the 48 car of Bolin right now on the inside of the 14 machine. That's a pass on Demerchant as that blend continues. It is quite a large pack here in the middle of the field.
Yeah, and although these guys are not the leader on the leaderboard, this is effectively the lead pack, right, guys? I mean, we're seeing it right now. They're racing as hard as they can because they know that if this does continue to cycle through, this will be the group that is essentially racing for those top spots. So, you know, you may be asking, oh, why aren't these guys racing so hard even though they're not the leaders? Well, effectively, they will be. Just give it some time.
Oh, 14 contact there as he pushed up into the 12, and another big save this time from Demerchant. In front of them, we've got some contact. Looks like the 77 of Kirwan, the 88 of LaPrade. They're getting aggressive into the tunnel turn. They're not doing themselves any favor, helping the longevity of this green flag run. It is no holds bar. They know what Ryan just said, Blake, the fact that this is essentially battling for the win right here.
It's not helping them at all, but what has helped this group is the fact that the top 4 cars, Wilson, Olak-Bosen, Honeycutt, and Ottinger, who's leading it, they've been pretty committed to one another for the most part. I think Ottinger's pushing really hard. He's trying to just lead this field or lead this pack of cars, but we'll see how it continues to shake out as we'll catch a quick word here with Vicente Salas. We saw him involved in the earlier incident, but luckily enough, not too much stress for you here tonight. Wanted to get some more playoff points heading into the postseason, but unfortunately things didn't work out for you tonight.
Yeah, you know, I told my spotter going into the green flag that we were trying to learn stuff, not start stuff, right? We didn't want to make any enemies. So unfortunately, I know my lap would have been good enough for the top 5 like we've been qualifying in the past few races, but just got a little too tight, hit the wall, kind of messed that up for us. But no, I mean, it's nice not to have stress here, nice to help my teammates out, and although it's raining and pouring outside, you know, it's all good in here, so, you know, we're just hanging out.
All right, well, you said you were trying to learn as much as you could tonight. We have a couple of big tracks that are coming up in the playoffs. Michigan, Texas, anything potentially you could take away from tonight to try and carry over into those races?
So, number 1 is don't be in front of the 6 car. Number 2 is don't be at the back. I mean, honestly, I feel like that was the problem right there. You know, most of these races we have started in the top 10, and we've been fine, right? So we finished really well in all of them. So I think we just got to get back to hit my marks in qualifying and you know, putting the races together like we've been. So pretty much the word of it. So.
All right, Vicente, well, we'll let you get back to relaxing, and thanks for chatting with us. And, of course, if things get real the next couple of weeks, we wish you and Tony Kanani Esports the best.
It's a chat with Vicente, whose night came to a bit of a premature end tonight. Again, you're still watching the battle for what right now is from essentially Wilson, or I should say Ottinger on back. 16th position on back as Jonathan Delaney continues to lead this group. It's worth noting Colin Keister's ahead of this pack, who again has a big moment off of the corner. That time with the 48 of Bolin in the center of the 3 wide. Keister has pitted, is ahead of Ottinger, would be in the lead of the so-called net race lead, but is on his own. We'll see if that means that he would inevitably be caught by Ottinger and company. The bigger pack that you're looking at here, they ran about 2/10 faster than Keister the last lap. Keister's about 2 seconds, though, ahead of Ottinger right now in P15.
And mentioning Jonathan Delaney, Cody Byus, Ryan Luza, a couple drivers that are still out. They have pit before, particularly Delaney. He spent 20 seconds in the box on his last lap down pit road. So one thing that he has going for him is I still don't think he can quite make it to the end, but he has quite a bit of leeway to play with here and sports about a 25-second lead over Colin Keister and the rest of that pack. So all smiles right now. He looks pretty comfortable, but for now, yeah, right now he's just on a Sunday drive on a Tuesday evening.
Pretty comfortable. He's enjoying that 4-second gap that Team Dillon Esports Coca-Cola machine has got. He last pitted 30 laps ago. There's a couple of other cars who have not pitted on this green flag run who pitted 24 laps ago. Those are the most recent of the pit stops, and again, everybody 15th on the back has pitted in this group. And again, they're all in the cycle for what they think will be a battle for the win amongst themselves, and it explains why they continue to be so aggressive in the middle of the pack. And take a look now as the 88 cars nearly spins, because Delaney is leading and is not in a position to win himself in, Blake. Now there are 3 points paying positions available in the live standings. That's about the 3rd or 4th different makeup of those bottom 3 we've seen tonight.
Well, and not to mention that, let's take into account that this may be the battle for the lead. Let's throw Ottinger in the lead and just play that out. Well, guess what? Ottinger would still be in. Casey Kirwan would still be in. So a really interesting scenario that you have playing out here, because Delaney, he will eventually cycle to not be the leader, assuming he cannot make it on fuel. But for now, yeah, Kirwan's night and everything about it completely changing. But also, look at Caden Honeycutt. He's 14 below. He's the first driver beneath the cut line. He's second of what would be technically this battle for the lead, we would think. So he goes up 1 spot. Ottinger's out. Honeycutt's in. And Kirwan would be out as well. So much can play out here in these next 19 laps.
Inside of the final 20 laps of this regular season, and still don't have a clue who those bottom 3 are going to be in terms of advancing to the postseason. You keep looking at that 77 of Kirwan, middle of this group here. A couple of cars looking high, way higher up in line in turn 3 than we've seen at any point so far tonight. And if you're enjoying the action on track and want to be a part of it, then start your iRacing career today by logging on to iRacing.com for more information, and maybe you can start your journey on the road to $500,000 where every day is race day. But of course, if you want to follow us through the playoffs and to the championship to learn more about this series' schedule, standings, teams, and more, all of that is at iRacing.com/eNASCAR. And look at them still going at it. Femi Olatunbosin and the 25 and Nick Ottinger in the battle back here at about P15.
Massive dive by Femi into the tunnel turn there. Femi was turned around in the first 10 laps of this race. He was involved in an incident. Now he finds himself in effectively the eventual lead of this race, and Steven Wilson right there as well. He's pushing hard. I mean, these guys are driving the heck out of these race cars because they know that this is going to be what the eventual lead will be.
And that next car up the road that I had mentioned, Colin Keister, who was once upon a time 2 seconds ahead of these guys, is only 1 second ahead. He is really the net race leader. We just haven't seen him in this pack. They continue to close in. They will catch that 66 car very shortly. You see him right there, just a couple of car lengths up the road on the left-hand side of your screen and now out of frame. Femi and company closing in on Keister in P15.
And with Keister being ahead of Femi there, that's actually one of the best things that could happen for Femi here, because now he's starting to catch that draft, and now he's kind of starting to settle in right here as you see Duval now diving to the inside of Ottinger. So we were talking about Ottinger potentially getting the win here, but man, these guys are putting up a fight.
Oh, contact there. Duval on the inside of Ottinger. Pushed up into him off of turn number 3. They got a whole lot of contact. Keep it going. Outside has the momentum. That's going to push the 25 through. Dicey move by Casey Kirwan to force his way up in line. Meanwhile, as all of this fighting happens in the mid-pack, there's still battles amongst the cars who have yet to pit on this cycle. Left-hand side of the screen, that's the battle for third on back. You saw the yellow and black 27 of Cody Byus just ahead of him. He's P2. Daniel Falkenham, that green Interstate Batteries car, he's in third, and then Bowden and Zelensky fourth and fifth.
Well, I think what you see here is those guys that are battling for third right now, they're trying to save a little bit more than Jonathan Delaney. Delaney, we didn't hear him clutching. We didn't hear him really saving it all. He was just kind of out on a cruise, but I think he knows that he can't make it. Those cars that are further on back, they might be in a scenario where they're at least trying to go and stretch a little bit further than what Jonathan Delaney was doing. So I think the fact that they're packed up and that their pace has been consistently about 2 or 3 tenths off of what Delaney's been able to do would indicate to me that they're at least trying to be able to make the distance on fuel right now and try to make it, which again would be a big stretch, but they're at least gonna try and play their cards here.
And this mid-pack has finally caught Colin Keister, and here we go. Olatin Bosin to the inside. He is clear in the tunnel turn, and for P15, Femi Olatin Bosin is ahead of Keister. That could be a pass for the potential race win. Keister hasn't been caught since the pit cycle. The 8-car Honeycutt goes to the inside, trying to bully the 66 out of the way.
Now Ottinger's blocked.
Oh! Honeycutt gets turned across the nose of Steven Wilson as he tried to throw the block, and that may put his playoffs out of reach.
It was aggressive all the way from the entry to turn 3 to the exit. Caden Honeycutt was going 110%. And after he used up the 66 trying to make the inside work, it was a late block that Wilson sent him into the fence. Caution flag is out. And now for all those drivers who stayed out 30 some odd laps on the run, they either come in to be safe to the end. Do we think, guys, all the other drivers who would have been good on fuel, do they come down for tires and this works out for the cars who had stayed out?
I'm torn, because here's the thing. If these guys come down and get those tires and all these guys who are good to the end stay out, that's going to be a pretty insurmountable task right there. That track position, we've seen it all night long, how important that draft is. Yes, those tires are going to be really big, but we're going to take a quick look at this incident, but I don't know if the track position deficit is going to be one that you can overcome.
You called it, Blake, a block gone wrong off of turn number 3. We take a look.
Yeah, he sent it in, trying to get clear. Keister, who, reminder, is on no tires. And then, unfortunately, isn't able to get clear. That's going to allow Wilson to build up a run. And Honeycutt is trying. He's not trying to really protect position. He wants Wilson to push him. And Wilson's trying to make the pass. And, unfortunately, Honeycutt just cuts down as Wilson's trying to make that run. Wilson keeps going down lower and lower and eventually just turns himself. As you can see, Honeycutt, if he had gotten clear of Keister, would not have been a problem. But you could see, yeah, he's just trying to take that run, take that draft to keep his track position from Steven Wilson. And he viewed that as, well, if I fall any further back, I'm not going to have a shot to win this race. And that's all he needed tonight. So a tough scenario there for Caden Honeycutt.
So up front, Jonathan Delaney from the race lead is going to come down and pit. Cody Byus from second does not. Falkenham stays out. Bowden stays out. Zelensky stays out. Luza, Mullis are in. Minter stays out. It's a mixed bag. Where do the cars who have already pitted go? Looks like Keister, Ottinger, and all those names staying out under this yellow.
Very interesting to see the leaders right there kind of split up. There was no clear decision there amongst these guys, right, Blake? I mean, I'm a little bit shocked to see that. I was almost certain that a lot of these guys would just try and stay out and maintain that track position.
I'm kind of with you there that if you made the track position play that you would probably stay there. Again, how many times have we seen in this series especially caution comes out, we're inside 10 to go, and pitting just doesn't work because we kind of get a string of yellows to the end. Now, I do think there's going to be a pretty substantial speed difference here, that the drivers that do take 2 or 4 tires this time by will be a bit faster. But if we're under caution, you can't use those tires to pass anybody. You got to go the same speed as everybody else. So if we stay green, we may saw a little bit of kind of what we saw at Charlotte earlier this year, where the tires end up catching them. But with everything that's on the line, I have my doubts.
Very bottom of that pylon, Jimmy Mullis is the first car off of pit road, back in 20th position. So there is a 19-car buffer between the cars who pitted and your race leader, Cody Byus, who was in second position when the yellow flag came out, but decided to stay out on the racetrack. He, Falkenham, Bowden, Zelensky, Minter, and Scott have all been out there for 33 laps and did not pit under the green flag. You see the number of their last pit stop on the leaderboard now. Everybody with Olat and Boson, Keister on back would have been pit stops under the green flag.
Very interesting situation there. Blake, you kind of hit it there as well. I mean, we saw it last week even at Indianapolis, right? Steven Wilson was one of those guys that came down pit road, got those tires, got that fuel, and was challenging for the lead, battling for second place. So it's really hard for me to kind of sit here and say it's a bad call, but with 20 cars to pass, it's going to be difficult.
And all of those different point scenarios in which we were talking about, you can put those in one of those steel cage bingo ball machines and spin it all around, because all of those different scenarios and different things that we had talked about get completely reset as the running order completely resets again. Your top row will now be Cody Byus and Daniel Falkenham, a couple of drivers who have found victory lanes so far this year. Minter's up there, Duval back in the number 9 spot as well. You got a rookie in Kwame Scott in the number 5 spot as they run right now. Cody Byus, of course, leading this race. A lot of names that we haven't talked a lot about because they all started in the 20s and 30s. Well, the iRacing drone has given us the scenic view here at the Pocono Raceway in the Pocono Mountains. And we're going to see how this race will come to an end. Is when we get the green flag, there's going to be 10 laps left in this race and 10 laps left in the regular season. Byus will be the control car on the inside. That has been money all night long for the driver who has sat in that position. A lot of it was Donovan Strauss early. Green flag in the air. It is another good jump on the bottom as Colin Bowden gives a push. Here comes Olatim Bosin. 3 wide to the inside. Look at the 22.
And you have so many cars that are on old tires here. Oh, and that's going to be Jordi Lopez, who wiggles in the middle of the field. Caution flag is out. 1 car on its lid. That is Derek Bordeaux, who is not able to make it out. And this is exactly the scenario I was worried about for those drivers that pit. As all these laps are running under caution, the heat cycles that these tires go through, you're losing your advantage lap by lap.
Mullis was in the fence, the 41 of Dylan Duval, the 36 machine of Kwame Scott. You saw the heavy damage on the 90 of Jordi Lopez, and it was the 34, to your point, who was upside down in Derek Bordeaux. It's a big mess in turn number 1. And to Blake's point, Ryan, that takes, of the 10 laps we had left, at least 3 of them off the board for green flag racing.
It's heat cycles, heat cycles, heat cycles, heat cycles. The more short runs we get, Blake said it's going to eliminate that advantage. You're not going to be able to take advantage of those runs because eventually it's just not going to be there anymore. You're not going to have the time to make those runs. So if you're Cody Byus, if you're Colin Bowden, Femi, Tucker, Minter, Daniel Falkenham, if you're these guys who are up front, you just set yourself up a pretty good opportunity here to take advantage of everybody else's mistake.
Well, let's wind it back and watch it again. They didn't even get halfway through turn number 1 before it all kicked off. The 36 car was the first one who I saw to get turned around, but I think it started below him into the corner. Colin Bowden made a big move, and then right there, the 90 had some help, I think, from the 12 car.
Derek Bordeaux found one that he couldn't avoid this time. I mean, just nowhere to go. They all stacked up. We're riding on board here with Garrett Lowe. Just a big stack going in their corner. Garrett Maines gets into the left rear there, and then just chaos all throughout the field. Oh, my goodness, there's way more cars involved than we initially thought, too.
Good use of the brake to avoid those cars going up the hill and then drive through underneath it. Some drivers not as fortunate, though, to be able to avoid that one. You see the yellow 34 high line almost clear and just got enough of it to get sent for a wild ride. On board with Leahy.
I believe this forms right in his lap here. Yep, you see them, they all slide up the track.
Oh!
That's like a
nearly went under right Derek Bordeaux.
Yeah. Wow. Great avoidance by Keegan Leahy there.
That onboard too gave a good perspective as to how Jimmy Mullis ended up in that accident as well. Well, they were wrecking in front of them. There's a second wreck right there behind it.
Yeah.
So we're watching the first wreck, but down by Leahy, the 29 got turned, the 30 was into it, so almost 2 wrecks at the same time to pad the car count on that one.
And that one looked like it was a 4-wide squeeze going into turn number 1 there. It looked like Jimmy Mullis was the car on the outside. Maybe 2 cars got connected in the middle and squeezed up there or something. But definitely a 4-wide situation gone wrong there further back.
Not the first time a 4-wide squeeze has gone wrong tonight, but it's the first time the virtual fans seated in turn number 1 had the better perspective, because it had been turn 3 where all the issues were earlier tonight. And this time, it comes off of the restart, which I don't think surprises anybody. Blanket, I think you've got Jordy Lopez on the radio.
Jordy, a lot going on that restart down into turn 1. What happened from your perspective?
Oh, no, it's just G-Mains being G-Mains. He just drove it in from 3 car lengths deep and just took me out. It's unfortunate because the car was fast today. And yeah, we currently have 7 minutes of required now, so we're not going to be able to get any good points today. It's unfortunate. I want to thank everyone at BS Competition and Sunset and Altus Engineering. Like, the car was really fast today. It's just, you just have drivers who have no idea what they're doing on track. So it's just unfortunate, but can't really do much about it now.
Well, I know you guys have had a really strong push this second half of the year. I know you still have a little bit to fight for moving forward to stay top 20 in points. Hope you're able to do that, and we'll be seeing more of you in this series in the future.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
It was Jordy in the number 90, of course. We took a second look at the incident mentioned. He might have had some help from the 12. That's the reference to G-Mains, Garrett Maines on the bottom, where it looked like all of that kicked off. As really everybody, Blake, was fighting for everything. I mean, not that drivers had been patient to this point in the night, but it's kind of why you kind of had your thumb on the pulse to figure that this would be what would have hurt those drivers who came down and pitted. Is you just don't tend to get long green flag runs at the end because everybody's going to try to get every inch on the restart.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's just recent history of this series. The last 3 years I've been up here in the booth, there's just so many races when we've gotten to this next-gen era, as these races have gotten a little bit shorter in length, that there's a lot of short runs once you get to the end of these races. And oftentimes, more than not that it doesn't work out that you can pit, but it just feels like more times than not, staying out seems to be the better trend recently.
We take a look at the picks. Camille's pick in Nick Ottinger, not too bad. In the number 8 spot, Allen's pick, Stephen Wilson, mid-pack P17, and let's just cut the graphic off there. We don't need to do that to you, Blake, any further.
Hey, my pick just passed 3 people last lap, so.
There you go. Restart coming up. 6 laps to go in this race. What can they do to stop Cody Byus? Green flag back in the air. He gets a big jump, but he's all on his own. He'll pull to the outside. Does the 17 get a run? The 22's blocking several lanes deep, but Byus does lead to turn 1. 4 wide behind them. 51 on the outside of it all.
Oh, it's in the middle. Zielinski would have saved, but they're not going to be able to make that work, as that's Keister who was right in the middle of that one. Another hard hit. I think that was Graham Bolin further down the straightaway. And once again, Cody Byus is going to be able to pace around as your race leader as we continue to wind down the laps.
Another good restart, clears all the chaos, catches a yellow, and the last restart happened at 10 laps to go. Got a quick caution flag. We didn't restart until 6 to go. Doing the math means that this would push us into kind of a natural green-white checker, likely looking for a green flag with about 2 laps to go in this race, still inside of regulation. And we'll wait to take a second look. Again, the drivers do the post-mortem on the radio, and it was certainly the 18 and the 66 where it all started. Keister, again, big run. They're making moves on the bottom, but Femi throws a block there, checks him up a little bit. 66 blocking, and then right there on the bumper, loosens up the 18, goes under him, and then pushes up. Not enough room. And then it's a big, big mess as everybody tries to floor it through an opening.
Yeah, and you can see two fights here, right? You see Colin Keister, he has a big run. He's shoving to the inside. Once he moved him up the groove there, he had a hole. He went for it and tried to squeeze there, and that hole pretty quickly closed. Now, that hole was maybe not necessarily open. But
if it's half apron, is it a hole?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really know if it was much of a hole, but he tried to make himself a hole, and it didn't really work out. And you see it tore up a lot of race cars. So, again, another restart, another incident, another stack up. Cody Byus still leads.
It's also hard, Blake, to say if the incident does or does not involve somebody critical to the playoff window, because the way this format works, there's a dozen cars who could theoretically win their way in, so every incident takes somebody out that's important.
Yeah, I was about to say, I know we keep kind of zeroing in on this battle for the win and how much that could mean for so many drivers, but there's a number of them that are still fighting to either try to get in on points or to avoid relegation. I know so much ends tonight in terms of a battle for the championship, but we continue to watch everybody try to stay in the top 20 to keep their spot in this series, potentially in 2025. So big separation you can see right now on the left-hand side of your screen as far as points are concerned. And pretty much it's going to be those 3 drivers. If they point their way in, the 53 of White, the 25 of Ottinger, and the 77 of Kirwan, pretty much nobody else is going to be able to make out that point. But you could see the effect that a Cody Byus, or at this point I believe a Colin Bowden win, would have, in that they're so far back it's not going to shake anything up at this point.
Yeah, Bowden 28th in the standings, Byus 38th, not in a position to win their way in, so that win does not count. And because right now we are not seeing a run out of Malik Ray and Wyatt Tinsley to be able to be top 20, there are 3 spots open on points as they run, Blake, and you've got Cody Byus.
All right, Cody, you've pulled some strategy to put yourself in this position. You're getting the cautions necessary. What's kind of the feeling right now? Are you feeling pretty good about this next restart and the potential for more to come after that?
Definitely feel good if we get one extra game with checkered here. Crew Chief Nate Story pulled a really aggressive strategy, knowing that this is a really important track to both Pittsburgh Knights and myself, home track and everything. So just trying to capitalize and try to get another one here.
Now, you've won in this series before. What would it mean to visit Victory Lane and get yet another one?
It would be huge. Obviously, the last couple of years haven't been to my standards, obviously, and having to do all these different strategies just to have a shot. So I'm going to do what we can. At the same time, try not to screw everybody else up. But it would mean a lot, especially here at Pocono, where we got our first one a couple years ago.
All right, we'll let you get back after it. Best of luck, Cody.
Thanks, man.
Byus leading this race, hoping to walk away tonight as the race winner. Play a bit of a spoiler, and Casey Kirwan, who sits in P5, if he can't win this race on his own, he's cheering for a Byus or Bowden win. A Minter win, having already been a race winner this year, would also not change the playoff grid. It would benefit Minter in terms of another race win, but there's the top 20 cut that gives you all of the context. That's 7 of Malik Gray, 18 points back from being in a position where he would be able to use his win. The 20 machine a little bit closer, but Wyatt Tinsley still at minus 12. All it would take is one wreck to change all of that, but right now, those two drivers who were on the bubble tonight are currently on the outside looking in, and that's why there are 3 points paying positions on the playoff grid as we run. It wasn't all that long ago where there was only 1 available as the live points were looking, but it has taken a big swing, and right now the beneficiaries are Ottinger and Kirwan. It will indeed be a little bit of a natural green-white checker, a 2-lap-to-go restart inside of regulation. Byus and Bowden on the front row. Again, either of those drivers winning would not change the current live look at the playoff grid. What happens? Can they get through turn number 1, or is this the final restart of the regular season? It's all on Cody Byus. Green flag in the air, but Bowden is right there with him.
Byus did not with the record further back in the pack.
Spinner, quick caution, and we are headed to eNASCAR overtime as it was quick. Tyler Gary, Ray Alfalla, the 2 drivers slow towards the back of the field. I think Alfalla was just low, avoiding all of it. Gary is where the incident comes from, center of the pack, and live scoring looks to be showing that Colin Bowden, the race leader, after Blake, I thought he got a better start and beat the race leader to the line.
Yeah, it looks like that was the case. And again, if there was a scenario where the outside car, the race or the non-race leader started the race, iRacing, the game itself, would issue a black flag. But apparently, Byus got the launch through the Geico restart zone. Bowden stayed with him, got a great push, and by the time the yellow came out, Bowden will be scored as your race leader. You can see everybody trying to anticipate that start. A stack up here, Gary missed a shift and then tries to cut back in line. And unfortunately, there was a 33 car that was sitting in the middle right there. Innocent spin for him, but it's going to put us under the caution flag again.
It seemed to me up front that Cody Byus tried to change it up and very clearly did not go at the start of the restart zone, right? He has the choice of going at the beginning of it, at the end of it. He had gone pretty early on a lot of those successful ones. It seemed like he wanted to change it up. That's what everybody was trying to anticipate and jump in and get into him. I think it is worth noting, restarts have been a topic of conversation as of late. The iRacing service would automatically issue that penalty if it determined that the car on the outside jumped the start. That is not typically a judgment call decision. That would be an automatic penalty that would be assessed by the game, knowing who was in what position and whatnot at the time of the green flag. So we assume Colin Bowden scored as the leader. He's going to be the rightful leader whenever this race gets back underway.
I don't know if that's the case, though. I mean, yeah, he's given a black flag. So Colin Bowden is not your race leader. It's determined that he did get a black flag. I would love to see another look at that restart to see if he truly got a launch, but apparently it says it was just a little bit too good for the 17, who has a black flag, and I think you could see him out on the racetrack right now as probably trying to plead his case a little bit right here.
And that's interesting because we normally do not see that. That is typically cut and dry, automatically issued by the service. Obviously, though, this series does have live race control, and we assume that this penalty was taken a look at by them and the penalty handed down manually.
And there's ways to trick the system, right? There's always ways to kind of, try and find your way through it, right? So Colin Bowden obviously had a really good restart, a little bit too good, obviously, right? He got the lead, he got the jump, and beat Cody Byus through the restart zone. So we're going to take another quick look at it here. I am very interested to see what this looks like.
We knew he beat him to the line. Let's watch it as they come off of the corner. And you'll see the 27 doesn't go right away. That's why everybody else kind of drives up into him. They're both going to get a shot from row number 2 behind in the restart zone. They get out of it again. Very clear the 17 beats him to the line, but that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at the first to firing out of the restart box.
I mean, at least from what I can see, Evan, I think you made a good observation. They both get a shove. And if I'm Colin Bowden, that's kind of my case right here, is the fact that the 97 of Tucker Minter got into him, and he really had no chance to slow down.
We've got him on the radio.
Yeah, Colin, what are you thinking here? We're hearing you got a black flag. What's kind of your thoughts here?
I mean, if that was in real life, that wouldn't be a black flag right there. I mean, it was tit for tat right there, firing off. So I really don't know what to do. We can't serve it right here. So I mean, I don't feel like I was in the wrong right there. So I guess we're just going to go right here and try and win. And then we're in uncharted territory right here. But a good day for the BuildSubmarines.com Ford Mustang. We played the strategy just right. I mean, absolutely big brained them here. And it's confusion right now. We got confusion. We're leading the race right now, though. That's all that matters.
Have you been given an explanation? Is that kind of what you have to do, is you have to pit after this and serve it?
Well, we're not going to get no explanation from race control either way. But, I mean, the way iRacing is, you can't pit this under yellow. So, I mean, I don't know. And I'm about to run out of gas, too. I think I haven't been saving gas here. We forgot about that. No, we're good on that. Yeah, we're not going to do anything dumb right here. We're just going to win the race and then plead our case after it that we should be the winner. I think that's what we're going to try. That sounds like a good plan. Does that sound like a good plan to you?
We'll see if it works out, Colin. Thanks for chatting with us.
I hope it does.
A little bit more late race and late season drama. Colin Bowden may just try to ride this one out, not serve the penalty. Again, we'll try to get word if it was an automatic penalty, if it was a penalty handed down by live race admin, and if we get that information, we'll forward it to you. But Colin Bowden's like, I want to win this race, and then we'll plead it out afterwards. In the end, we do end up at eNASCAR overtime. If you're with us on a routine basis, it's a routine that you are familiar with. If we get around to the white flag, this race is official. Any yellow before that will restart, and we will get up to 3 attempts to finish this race under green. And it is the penalized number 17 of Colin Bowden as the control car. That car is gone. Green flag is in the air. The car was DQ'd for not serving the penalty. Byus leads to 1. Here comes Kirwan. 3 wide to the inside of row 2.
Kirwan's going to be really aggressive here. He's going to win. This is playoffs. He dumps her.
Turns him. Byus in front of the field. It is a huge full field pileup on the exit of turn 1 after they wrecked battling for the race lead. And Femi Olatimbosin will emerge as the race leader.
Take all those scenarios and throw them out the window. That's my only take after that. We talked about scenario after scenario after scenario. That incident collects half the field, and now Femi's in the playoffs as the leader if he were to win this race.
An extra note, thought maybe that Bowden would be gone just because iRacing would time him out for not serving the penalty. I'm seeing information in the sim that Colin Bowden disconnected due to a connection issue unrelated to the penalty. That's the raw data from the sim, but that is showing that that car disconnected due to a connection issue unrelated to the penalty. That's why his car disappears. In shades of Indianapolis, you end up with the lead car on the front row no longer in the picture, and a whole different complexion. 3 wide. It's the 77 on the attack, and I don't know if it's Byus trying to block or Byus taking his lane, Blake, but the 77 ended up there. They got into each other, and the result speaks for itself.
Well, again, I think you see the result of old tires and new tires right there, and I don't think Kirwan really understood the speed difference there was going to be. I know we've been sitting under caution forever, but Byus is still on really old tires, and I just don't think it's hard to know exactly where that speed difference is going to be. Byus starts at the top. He goes all the way to the bottom. Kirwan isn't expecting it. He's rolling on fresh tires. And then, unfortunately, I mean, just spins in a position. I mean, there's hardly anybody that missed this. I was trying to look through. I think Cozy Jr. may have just squeaked by, but it's, I mean, Delaney, LaPrade, I mean, there's just not even a handful of drivers that missed this huge accident.
The whole field. 3 gets by with a bit of damage. You mentioned LaPrade. That's about it. Femi Olatunbosin, when we lined up for the restart, had the worst of the jumps on the second row and just ends up in the right spot. LaPrade got through it. Let's take a look and see what he did.
See Brian LaPrade, he works his way to the center of this incident. The seas parted. I mean, that's as case in point as it is there, but I am looking at the scoreboard right now, and the 20 of Wyatt Tinsley has worked himself into 10th. He had a little bit of contact in this incident, but he is one of those guys who was fighting to get in that top 20 in the points to make his way into the playoffs. We're going to see it right here. He gets a little contact on that inside lane, some rear contact, but I don't think he's tore up too bad.
And you got a quick glimpse of it, that Femi Olatunbosin, who now leads this race, is in on the live playoff standings. That pushes the 77, who caused the caution flag, or was at least a part of the caution flag. That, as it currently has the 77 out, was the incident that he was involved in. Zawak, another driver who finds his way through, but what a cruel twist of fate for Casey Kirwan to be in until the yellow flag in which he was involved in now has him out of the playoff standings.
I mean, I'm trying to look of any driver that would have been behind. Graham Bolin, pretty sure he was involved. Garrett Maines was right in the middle of this. His car was destroyed. So although Kirwan got hurt by this, I really don't know how many other competitors could perhaps take advantage, because they were also involved in this incident. You could see Tinsley got a little bit of damage, but he's 10th right now. But that's still not good enough to put him in with Olatunbosin right now as your race leader, scored right there.
And it's worth noting, Femi Olatunbosin entered tonight 24th in the standings. He was on the outside, now finds himself on the inside. Blake, you're dialed up with our race leader.
All right, Femi, a big change of fate could potentially come right here. What's going through your mind right now as you try to get ready for this restart?
I mean, we saw what happened to the leader of the last restart, so just make sure that, you know, I'm not going to get dive bombed, and then once we figure that out, get a good exit, try to hold the lead for either until the caution comes out or until the race finishes, whichever happens first.
How are you looking on fuel? Are you good there?
I'm good. That's not a problem.
All right, so might have a few problems, but saving fuel isn't one of them. Femi, we'll let you get back to it. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Olatunbosin last made the playoffs in the 2022 season. At that time, driving for Clipboy Racing, now a member of Oxygen Esports. Can he make a second trip to the postseason? We've only seen 15 drivers in series history make the playoffs in multiple seasons, and could it be a surprise appearance for the driver of the 22 car in a must-win situation? Tucker Minter, already a race winner to the outside line. If the 97 could steal this, that would kick the 22 out. It would bring the 77 of Kirwan back in. This is attempt number 2 at a green-white checker overtime finish. The 22, the control car, will watch that restart zone closely as the pace car pulls off and in to the restart zone. Olatunbosin gets an okay jump. We're back underway. He's got a half a car length advantage over the 97.
And he gets a good push by Ottinger on the inside. They're all stacked up on that inside lane. The outside's a bit separated. Femi's going to dive it in.
5 wide behind. Zawak just got tagged. Are they spinning back there? I think they're okay for the moment. Is up front. Olot's in front. Here comes Minter. Caution comes out as they were nose to nose. Who was scored as the race leader? Is it gonna be the 22? I think it is. Half a second later, Tucker Minter would have been in front, but just a moment before he got ahead of him. The yellow flew, and Olatunbosin will maintain the race lead.
Man, oh man. I mean, this kind of reminds me of the race we had at Phoenix last year that Minter won. If you can remember him staying out, a bunch of yellows ended up helping him get that win. Kirwan and a number of drivers that were just involved in that last incident pretty much were wrapped up in that one as well. So the playoff picture may not have changed all that much with this latest caution.
Malik Ray is involved in this one. He was already a long shot, but worth noting since that's one of the drivers we have followed more closely. It's not often that a race winner doesn't make the playoffs, despite how this format has been for quite some time now. You see him on the outside. Everybody just kind of drifted up. I think the cars 2-3 rows ahead of them even drove it into the fence. They were all just swinging wide off the corner, and that 7 ended up on the nose and in the air on top of Zawak.
Well, in that exit of turn number 2, it's a funnel, man. It tightens up so much. We experience it in the Xfinity cars, and you see it in the next gens. You see it especially here. Everybody just squeezes up into the top lane. It just stacks the whole field. It's chaos once again.
It all starts with the 7 and the 5. I thought they were gone there when the 99 was sideways. He saves it, but even watch the cars in front of them. Everyone's hitting the fence. It starts with the 7, the 5, they're wrecking, but even the 6 cars ahead of them were pretty close to wrecking. It's everybody overdriving the exit of the corner and putting it in the fence. We've talked about this many times too before, Blake. If the car in front of you drives into the fence, you may drive into the fence following them, and it may have been a bit of an accordion until it finally didn't work. Again, watch the black and red 5 and the green and white 7, but even the cars in front of them, they're also going to hit the fence. I mean, everybody.
You see the 29 squeezed up into the 5, and that's really what kind of set it off. The 5 was kind of reacting to the 29 there, rolling up the track.
And I wish there was a way to see them side by side, but while that was happening, Tucker Minter had the run on the outside off of turn 1 and was going to pass and was going to clear Femi Alantenbosin before they got to the tunnel turn. Instead, the caution came at a moment where the 22 was still scored in front and is therefore still the leader. Again, the consequence of that being that if Minter was scored as the leader, Kirwan would be in. Instead, Kirwan's still out, Femi in as we run. And this will push us full distance for our 3rd and final attempt at a green-white checker finish. I'll say that we have had now 4 cautions, I believe, since we've done an entire green flag lap. So the trends would suggest that this will not end under green, and it is going to be a dead heat up front. If there is a wreck, Blake, before we get to the white flag, this race would be decided just like that last one was for racking these guys up by whose nose is in front at any moment. So if you're Tucker Minter, you can't really play the restart to try to pass Femi in turn 2 because you might not get that far. You just have to get the nose in front and hope it falls your way.
Well, and the one thing that kind of makes me think that may happen again, or we may put ourselves in a situation for another quick caution, is look who's in 4th right now, and look at the front of their race car. Steven Wilson doesn't even have a nose on his car, and I don't think he's going to pit this time, so he'll restart as the 2nd car on the outside line, and he has a lot of damage. That is going to stack up that outside line like crazy. And you also had the fact that if you're Nick Ottinger, again, you're playing all these scenarios with points. You actually wouldn't mind if you're in a position to win. Of course, you got to take it. But look, you have your teammate in front of you. If you push him to a win, he already has a win. So that actually doesn't really hurt you that much if you're Nick Ottinger. So Ottinger won. You have the agenda of trying to get yourself a win, but if you can't and you are going to help one of the 2 cars in front of you, you've got to help Tucker Minter. The last thing you want to do is push the 22 car past.
Do we see a situation, Femi Olat, Tucker Minter on the front row, Ryan? If you're Nick Ottinger, Steven Wilson, 10's damage, but Bolin, I mean, what can you do if you're not on the front row knowing that you might have 2 laps, but you may more realistically have 10 to 15 seconds?
Well, the biggest thing here is if Femi and Minter get stuck side by side, that is going to create a huge pocket of air where those cars behind are going to have a massive run. Obviously, Steven Wilson's going to be ailing here. He's probably not going to be able to get a run, but you have Graham Bolin behind Ottinger here. You have those guys stacking up right there. They're probably going to be able to mount a charge. So if these guys get stuck racing each other, you could see some pretty brave moves to take the lead, but it's going to be hard to decide, especially with the idea of a yellow could fly at any moment.
We'll see if it changes, but as they run, Femi Olat would be in we would see the 77 of Kirwan out. That would be the difference maker for one of the final spots in to the playoff grid. It will be, no matter what happens, the final restart of this regular season. Femi Olatubosin trying to win his way into the playoffs. Tucker Minter trying to play spoiler, already a race winner. He's on the outside row. Pace car down and in. Olat in control. Green flag in the air. It's a good jump for the 22 car. What does the 25 of Ottinger do? Does he push or do they challenge to turn one?
They're almost 7 wide behind him. If you're Minter, you got to get this lead. You got to get it immediately because I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to go.
Looks like they make it through the center of 1 and 2. Olat gets sideways. Here comes Minter to the inside. Femi throws a block. Can't shut the door. 3 wide for third, but Tucker Minter on the inside of Femi Olatubosin to the tunnel turn.
Femi's going to fight on the top side. He's going to get the run up to number 3. They're 3 wide for the lead. Graham Boland's looking inside.
Where did Graham Boland come from?
3 wide, Minter in the center trying to fight. Still on the outside is Olat, but how about Graham Boland to the race lead? Looking for the white flag, but can he block them all the way to turn 1? This race is official.
Femi's giving a big shot to Graham Boland going in on the front straightaway here. They're going to file into turn number 1, but Graham Boland has the clean air, has nobody fighting him right now.
Graham Boland also looking for a race win. Entered tonight as a top 10 car in the points. Minter got sideways. He catches it. More cars having issues behind, but I don't know, Blake, if they can get back to the 48 car.
They got to form up here out at 2, and Olat's going to have to get some help from Minter, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get it. Olat hard into the wall. Boland trying to hang on and fight for a playoff spot. Can he pull it off? Here comes Minter to the outside.
Tucker Minter, one last look. Can he get to the rear of the 48 car? He's got the speed off the corner. Boland stays high. Minter to the inside. Who makes it first to the stripe? Graham Boland wins Pocono and wins his way to the playoffs. Wasn't even a conversation for the last 3, 4, 5 restarts, but Graham Boland got the 2 laps of green flag racing that he needed to make a 3 wide pass, deny the spoil from Minter, and deny the walk-off from Olatubosin, and Graham Boland is going back to the playoffs for a 3rd time in his career.
So Boland gets in, who was knocked out by him winning this race.
I was going to say, they were 5 and 6 wide through the field on that restart coming to the turn number 1, and who knows where they shook out. It's going to be interesting to see how the playoff standings look after the checkered flag here.
We'll wait for the official points to let you know who's in and who's out. But one of the biggest in his career, this winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR, as Graham Boland is headed back to the playoffs. First time since 2022, but he's back in it and does it in extremely wild fashion, leading only the final 2 laps of the Maconi Setup Shop 150 to get the job done. Well, let's take a look at our Coca-Cola move of the race, and after a lot of short sprints, we got the full 5-mile dash to the end, and watch Boland way back there on row number 3.
And he gave a ton of room to Nick Ottinger. He got a horrible start, but it was planned so that he could build up a run as they went down to turn 1, and the hope was that these cars would race each other hard enough up here that they would get in his way, and that's exactly what happened. He had fresher tires, he had a little bit more race car than they had, but he was able to make the right moves at the right time. Tucker Minter went for the lead. That splitting move right there in the middle, that was a daring move, but it worked out perfectly.
And it sets him up for this move, Ryan, off the tunnel turn to put him 3 wide.
Yeah, you see the two leaders there. They get stalled out. They're side by side through that tunnel turn, and it's barely a one-lane corner. So that stalls them out. And Graham Boland, he has a beautiful entry to the corner, gets the car rotated to the center, gets to the yellow line, is able to rotate to the inside of the two battling leaders, and clears them by the time he gets off of turn number 3.
And then I thought, Blake, he was going to run away. Here, Olot and Bosun's close enough, but as they get through turn number 1, Boland opens up quite a gap, and I thought at that point he was going to check out, and then a late charge from Tucker Minter. That 97, all the way around by the time they come off the 3, he had the run. I thought he was going to get a push and steal it back.
Yeah, he just gets a little loose off it too. If you're Graham, you were hoping that they were going to stay too wide behind you, but Minter gets a little bit loose. That allows them to form up to get a little bit of draft. But at this point, Graham has a huge lead. He barely scrapes the wall. Olot and Bosun gets into it. Minter goes down low. And for Graham right here, this is about the time that you could respell his name from Graham to Guam.
And then the 97 car with the speed off the corner, looking to the bottom. Does he get the help from Femi? Would that have made the difference? But Femi doesn't care that the 97 was going for the win. He had to go for it himself. A push might have done it for the 97. Instead, he stays in line. And Graham Boland is your winner. Let's head to the Sunoco post-race report. Blake McCandless is with tonight's race winner.
Graham Boland, can you try to capture the emotions right now as you restarted 5th, but yet here you are, you have a shot in the postseason, grabbing the win here, and you have a shot at a championship. What are the emotions going through your mind right now?
I don't know. It just worked out for me. Like, Nick got away from the side draft on the straightaway, and I just kept my foot in it. I wasn't lifting all night, man. Like, clear enough everywhere. Like, I got bullied last race a couple times, so it is what it is. I'm in the playoffs now because of it. It's how you have to race, I guess. So you got to nudge people a little bit.
Is this something where you kind of get a little bit of a learning experience from the race that you had earlier this year with Steven Wilson at Iowa, where you guys raced really hard with one another? Has that kind of influenced how you've gone about these last couple of races?
Yeah, you just have to be more aggressive, utilize side draft a lot, and stalling runs is huge on the straightaway. Into the tunnel turn, I made sure to stall Steven so I could send it and have clean air with my left front. And then the tunnel turn, I'm glad Femi got tight, because I did too. And then Tucker sent it in. I thought he was going to left rear me, so I parked it. But, yeah, I took the run from Femi on the front stretch, and I think that won me the race on the final lap.
All right, now you get to look forward to battling for a championship. There are 3 races in round number 1. How do you think you fare at a lot of these tracks that you've been to and advanced through before?
Well, I mean, I love Texas on here, and I feel like Michigan is going to kind of race like these other big tracks like Indy. So it's kind of similar to this package right here. So you're going to have aggressive racing like this for the W. And, yeah, I can't wait to try to make the Final Four again, man. Last year was a heartbreaker at the same track, and then we come back here and win again, or win here. I haven't won in 2 years, so I'm just happy.
All right. Well, Graham, I know you have a lot of fans out there. They've been chanting for you. We'll let you go celebrate with them. Congratulations to Graham Boland, your winner tonight at Pocono.
Price Chopper.
Indeed, as we will catch up here with the rest of our drivers here on the Sunoco post-race report. Again, guys, you can kind of hear the emotion in his voice as we catch up here with Tucker Minter, who brings it home in second. And Tucker, just kind of talk us through those last couple of laps, because that was a chaotic finish to this one.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a brawl there between Graham, Femi, and I. There's some thunderstorms rolling through Concord right now, so there's like lightning and thunder crashing outside my window, so it's pretty intense going down the Long Pond straightaway into 2 side by side for the lead with the lightning and everything. But just wanted to finish the race as clean as I could. I don't like to wreck people or anything like that. And I already made a mistake earlier. I'd like to apologize to guests and everybody else that was caught up in that earlier. That was a rookie mistake on my part. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I did almost everything I could on that final restart exchange there. Didn't get the best restart, but It was going to be hard to stay with Femi through one, and then when he got loose, we were in a pretty good spot down the back straightaway there, and I kind of overdrove turn 2, and that gave Graham the opportunity to get Byus into 3. But on the last lap, I think I did everything I could, just didn't quite have enough without running over Graham there.
All right, Tucker, I know we'll be talking to you again soon. First round of the playoffs comes up, and know you'll be a factor, and I look forward to watching it. Best of luck.
Yeah, thanks, Blake, and thanks to everybody on William Byron Esports. Looking like we had some good team points today.
Tucker Minter brings it home in second as we continue here on the Sunoco post-race report. Is a driver who led that final restart, brings it home for a third-place effort tonight. Femi Olatunbosin, who came into the night a little bit behind the cut line, and it looks like you'll finish sit 20th in the standings right now unofficially. But Femi, anything you could have done different there those last couple of laps to try and change this outcome?
Well, first off, I think gotta give a hats off to Graham. He came in, he did what he had to do. He won the race, got himself in the playoffs. I think I could have gotten a little better exit off of turn 1, but obviously I died or I crashed on the lap 1 wreck, and I knew I was going to have a little straight line deficit, so I tried to push it a bit harder on exit, and it was just a bit too much. But I felt like I was still in great position. Came off turn 3 side by side with Tucker right behind Graham, but Graham did a good job of kind of playing the lanes, giving Tucker drafts to keep me side by side with him. But other than that, I think I did everything I could.
All right, Femi. Well, again, we appreciate you catching up with us here. I know there's still a lot of season left for you to try and stay in this top 20. I know you'll be doing the best job you can to try and stay there. But appreciate your time chatting with us here on the Sunoco Post Race Report.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks again to everybody at NFR and Oxygen Esports. Almost got them the first win this season, but I think I've had good speed past couple weeks, so I don't see any reason why I can't get a win for them before the season ends.
All right, we appreciate Femi catching up with us as well. Evan, I think we're about ready to look at our 10 drivers that will be competing for $100,000 this season.
I'm told we got it, and we do. It is official, and this factors in bonuses for the segments for the regular season championship and all. And it will be Steven Wilson, Bobby Zelensky, Vicente Salas, Tucker Minter, Garrett Lowe, Graham Bolin, Daniel Falkenham, Dylan Duvall, all those drivers in via race wins. And then Parker White and Nick Ottinger in the end do end up with those 2 points paying positions. Again, Ottinger found himself on the outside looking in at points in this race. But in the end, he is able to points his way in, and those are the 10 drivers who will fight for the championship this season. But before they can talk title, they have to survive the first round of the playoffs, where we'll go from 10 down to 4, Michigan, Texas, and Phoenix, the 3 racetracks in round 1 of the playoffs this season.
You want to know how close it was? Wyatt Tinsley had 246 points. Femi Olot in 20th had 247. So Wyatt Tinsley 1 position over the course of the entire season, and that puts him in and Nick Ottinger out. That is how close. Every position matters. Literally every position matters, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, we saw just everybody fighting so incredibly hard for this. I mean, you saw how hard Femi was racing. He bounced it off the wall coming to the second to last corner. So these guys were giving it all they had tonight, but we saw as they are when they come out of this, there's our playoff field.
There's a quick look at the top 10 from tonight's race. Again, Bolin in his Quick Trip Pioneers Game Made Machine leading only 2 laps. Femi Olatunbosin thought he might have had it. He led 8 over the course of this race. A lot of race winners in that set of 10. They weren't a big factor tonight in this one, of course. Seth the Merchant led some laps. Casey Kirwan ends up out after he finishes 26th in this one. And a lot of laps led early for Cody Byus and Donovan Strauss. Neither of those drivers end up with the results warranted for the cars that they had in this one. And now we look forward to the playoffs, where for a second year in a row, we head to the Michigan International Speedway to kick things off. It was Garrett Lowe who won this race a year ago. Guys, what can we expect from MIS?
Well, I think first off, Michigan is going to kind of play into the races that we've seen the last couple of weeks. Indianapolis, Pocono, draft is going to be a big factor. This groove and this track is going to widen out to where we're going to see some crazy racing. Fuel mileage, that's also a big key every time you come to Michigan. So we've gotten a really good preview, I think, in terms of the type of racing that we'll see here in these last few that we've had in the regular season.
Yeah, we've seen the exciting racing play throughout the regular season now, and now as we enter the playoffs, yes, there are these 10 drivers who are competing for that championship, but there are 30 other guys who are just as hungry for the wins, and they're going to see tracks like Michigan and Texas, those drafting-type tracks with these next-gen cars. You're going to see a lot of guys still push as hard as they can to make that top 20 bubble.
Well, this season started all the way back in February with a race win by the Pioneers as Wyatt Tinsley. It ends with Graham Bolin in victory lane. So Pioneers bookending all of this. And we said that Pocono had a lot to live up to after the craziness of the last 2 years, and it continues to deliver. Maybe a little bit crazy and sloppy at times, but I think in the end, Blake, really happy that we got that 2 green flag run to the end of this race and an opportunity for those drivers to truly fight it out.
Yeah, it was good to see that. But again, I think the reason that Pocono produces this is the fact that on these restarts, you can go 4 or 5. I mean, we saw, I think, 6 wide into turn 1 there, even on the last green-white checkered. So it's just the type of racing that Pocono produces when there's so much on the line, and there's never been more on the line than there is in this 15th season of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Over $500,000 on the line, and Ryan, we're going to see a lot of drivers who've been pretty comfortable for the last couple of months have to flip that switch again, right? I glance at the schedule and see the likes of Wilson, Zelensky. I mean, those guys have been locked in for months. And I don't know if cruise control is the right way to put it, but they've got to snap back in and go at it, because a 6-driver cut in a field of 10 is no joking matter. In the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, you'll talk about round of 16, you got to kind of top 10 your way into it, ease your way into it. There is none of that. You have to be a top 5 car week in and week out if you want to make it to that championship 4.
Yeah, there's no such thing as good points days in the first round of the playoffs. It's all about being up in that top 5, that top 3, fighting for wins. We saw Vicente Salas wreck out early in this race. He was cool. I get to relax. I get to chill and enjoy a nice cold Coke and watch the race. But if he has another wreck like that in any of these upcoming 3 races, he is not going to be that relaxed. You have to fight every race. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these next few races pile out.
And we'll talk points, but just like tonight, in the end, winning solves everything. It solved everything tonight for your race winner, Graham Bolin. That's going to be another key to get yourself in to the eNASCAR Championship. Until next time, though, that is it for us here tonight from Pocono. On behalf of our entire team at eNASCAR, iRacing, everybody behind the scenes, and for your broadcast team tonight. For Ryan Vargas, for Blake McCandless, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in, and congratulations to Graham Bolin on being the race winner tonight. And a bigger congratulations to your 10 drivers who will fight for the eNASCAR Championship in 2024. We are back in 2 weeks' time for the Round of 10 opener. That one is on Tuesday, August 13th at iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway. That race and every race of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs can be found exclusively here on the iRacing Sports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Until next time, good night from Pocono.